Hey,
Hello.
whatever you do. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm like, just recording.
You what?
Wow, look at Jacob's got the hair down. Hey.
Yep.
All right.
Long hair, but cares a lot.
And is that wet hair from being out on the water today?
Did you ask if he's going to walk on water today?
No.
I swear that's what I heard.
No, I said, is it wet hair because you were out on the water today?
Oh no, I had to watch the swell report from my computer while I was working all day.
It's been a
I
hard
thought she
day.
was making a biblical reference. So
that
I'm
works
sure you can
too.
relate. It was huge
Okay.
today.
Okay, with that, I am going to go ahead and bring us into our work session. I don't know if this is our mid-year school improvement plan review. With that, we will not go into the whole remote board meeting information. We'll wait until our regular meeting for that. So because we only have 30 minutes, which means that you principals have probably timed each other out to 10 minutes each or something. Remember those days used to be such a rush. You guys trying to get through stuff. So Superintendent Brewer, did you have anything?
No, I do not. Just welcome to the meeting. And I have an echo. It'd be, I think we have Hamilton, Franklin, and
Jefferson
this evening. So without further ado, I think it's time to turn over and let's start with.
The order will be Franklin, Jefferson, and Hamilton.
Okay, thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
All right. So since I just have a few minutes, I'm going to touch on each area ELA. Our lower grades showed significant growth. We made some adjustments in the lower grade to track progress because we discovered that the STAR test with our second graders, they were just pressing buttons on the computer because they didn't know how to use it yet. So our second grade is using DRA, which is more accurate probably anyway. We are currently looking at how we're going to revamp our RTI for the next 9 weeks. Going to math. We're looking forward to having all of our module tests in person. It gives us a better indication of learning to start the year. Having them do remote tests wasn't that honest, I guess is one way you would put it, because some people were getting help and some people weren't at home on the test. We're hopeful that the shift to in schedule, we can provide greater remediation options. One of the things that we have discovered is, especially in our third grade, which has some goals around multiplication, we've discovered that the students that are coming to us are, although we're working on multiplication and fractions right now, they've just been working on addition and subtraction. So there's a difference in where people are at, and that remediation will help hopefully help us to get caught up in math. Moving to social emotional, our counselor Colleen Harker has done a great job of working with the Character Strong and creating lessons that then are being pushed out to students. She's also created laminated posters with the monthly character traits for classrooms. And earlier in the year, she obtained a PAEF grant for books on each of the traits. And those books are used regularly by the classroom teachers to support the remote Character Strong lessons. Every month she changes them over. She's got a checkout system in her office, and they're there for whoever needs them. And the teachers have done a nice job of supplementing or complementing, I guess is what I would say, the Character Strong lessons that are being done remotely. In terms of the equity goal, as I mentioned in my presentation last month, the family instruction and support was a great way to start the year. I always say that we need to look at providing support, student by standard, name by need. And I think that having the family instruction and support days really met families' needs at a crucial time. I'm hopeful that we can do something similar again next year. I think that it was just a nice way to start the year. Our inclusionary practice project, we have 24 staff that have now completed. Another 3 are at least halfway through the trainings. So that's something that not only our teaching staff, but our paraeducators are taking part in. And I want to give a special thanks to Jamie Valadez. We've updated our library with books that more accurately reflect Native American culture. One of the benefits, I guess, of having some downtime was my librarian paraeducator. She was able to go through, and we have gotten rid of a number of books that were biased, dated, or just inaccurate, and been able to replace them thanks to Jamie's recommendation. Those books just arrived, and Kelly Hoke has got them out for students now. And in the family and community key progress area goal, our class meets, unfortunately, as the years progressed, they've dropped. The number of students participating in those class meets, the remote learning just isn't working, which is why we're making some changes. But we've done a good job of recognizing students, and our Bencott being good postcards going out to recognize students. I've had a number of students and parents comment on just how nice that is. So I'm really proud of the work that Franklin staff and students have done, and I'm appreciative of the support and loyal partnership of our parents. Here at Franklin, every day we learn and grow. So that's my mid-year update. And any questions?
No, thank you. Anybody else? No. Oh, okay. Did I hear somebody? I'm not sure. It's like having a seance. Okay. Well, then, thank you very much, Principal Lunt. So we go on next to Jenny, who was our next. Rhonda. All right, Principal Crom, you're on.
Hi, everyone. First of all, just want to say thank you for having me here, but really want to give a shout out to this fabulous principal team and Michelle Olson coming into this as a first-year administrator. And this year, they have all been so supportive, and everyone's always at the end of a telephone when I have a question, and just could not ask for a better team. So that's been like an incredible boost to my year this year. So I'm just going to kind of go through my plan. With Gary's guidance and suggestion, we took all these questions and I sent them out to a grade level chair in every grade through the building. And I got their input back on what they saw as progress and barriers to progress and what supports they needed. And then I made comments about the adjustments. So as you read through that, that feedback almost all comes directly from teachers who are on the ground and the voices that we wanted to hear. So I'm just going to go through this in general. The in-person time was invaluable. That over and over again, having the kids in person was what was good. The folks identified that we've now moved to having Dibbles assessments all the way through grades K to 6 is the first time that's happened at Jefferson, and everyone enjoyed that and sees the value in using a common assessment in order to watch kids and identify students who are in need of support. Right now, we have identified about 20 students in the building outside of our regular RTI who have been struggling in ELA and or math and who are receiving tutoring a minimum of twice a week. And so have just used the supports in the classrooms and some of that assessment to identify students who need tutoring. Their barriers to progress are pretty much the same in math and ELA, is that 2 times a week, everyone said seeing kids twice a week just isn't working. That's the biggest barrier. They engage when they're there, they're disengaged when they're not. online work's only being done by about 50% of the students. And so not being in school overwhelmingly was the biggest barrier to progress in math and ELA. Another barrier to progress and just part of the COVID thing is that we can't bring students together for RTI in those small groups. So in general, you'd want to bring kids that are on the same level and work 3 or 4 of them, 2 or 3 together. And that's been a challenge in getting those kids, well, we can't bring them together. So being able to serve the students that we need to with the resources that we have, and given the context of COVID right now, makes it a little bit more challenging. Grade level alignment in math, the grade level alignment and the scope and sequence work that's been done building across grade levels in buildings and across the district was cited several times by teachers as being part of the progress that's happening, and our scores are holding well in math right now. It's tough that the only assessment we have are the end of module assessments. So when you measure what happened in the fall against what happened in the spring, you know, you have to keep that in mind that it's only the end of module assessments that we're comparing one against another. And I'm not sure that's the best measure, but it's what we have right now. And they said same thing, barriers were remote, poor attendance and engagement for remote learning, and only seeing kids twice a week. Everybody wants to see kids more. As we move into culture and SEL, we have weekly SEL lessons that students are doing. Other things that we're doing for culture in the building are having monthly student of the month assemblies, and we're identifying 2 students in every class, and those kids are getting their pictures taken, and there's a virtual assembly that's going on. We have behavior and discipline is almost non-existent. We've had like 13 of the whole year, 13 times where we even had to talk to a student. 8 of those are from one student, 4 of those are from a second student. None of them have been anything more than minor disruptions in the classrooms or kids who are having trouble focusing and following directions in the classroom. So we've had no major infractions this year. One of the barriers is just how do we unite students when we're isolating them in their classrooms, and how to bring that unity together in the building. One of the things we started this year was morning announcements every single day. So we have our announcements, we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Once we're all back in school, along with that, I want to start instituting a daily intention, like our daily intention today. Would everybody make an effort to say hi to someone that you don't know? Everyone take a moment to write down something that you're grateful for this morning. And so I want to start incorporating that into our daily announcements. And then the student of the month assemblies just gives us the opportunity to highlight students in each classroom. Certainly with staff, it's difficult to do that team building and culture building when we really can't get together as a group. And one of the things that we've done that's new this year is every staff member has taken a week. And within that week, they provide snacks in the staff room all week long. So every day there's different snacks there. So that at least brings people passing each other in there or sending notes to each other about how wonderful the food is or asking for recipes. And everyone has something to eat every day, but they're only bringing things 5 days out of the entire year. So that's something I had done in another building. The staff, we talked about it. They wanted to get on board, and it's been a lot of fun, actually. Equity plan, as Jeff mentioned, we've all done the Inclusionary Practices Project and spent some time talking about what learner variability means and what universal design for learning means. All of our staff, including our paras, have gone through modules of training, either asynchronously or synchronously with Ann Rinker. And that has been good. It was good learning and something that we want to keep pushing as we move forward in inclusionary practices in our buildings. Looking at family and community engagement, we're communicating weekly. The teachers are with their students. I'm sending out a monthly newsletter with a goal to get that to be weekly. But as I started with weekly, there's not a lot happening every week at this point. Things are a little bit slower. So I've done monthly, but I'd like to get myself to doing that on a weekly basis. We have AmeriCorps coming to our building once a week, one evening a week, and they're inviting families in, and they assist families with helping their children on the online learning, the remote learning. And that number is first couple of weeks, there was nobody, and it's increased to like 2 families and 4 families. So partnering with AmeriCorps in supporting families has been one way we've been able to engage families in the building. And of course, the challenge to the family and community piece is that it's hard to engage with families and community in other ways than what we've identified right here. And then of course, some families just don't get online to see what the communication is. So try to make the connections through phone calls and parent meetings. And one thing our staff is doing is we were out, and I know all buildings are, but we're outside. Every single child is met at their car door. We're opening doors for them. We're saying hi to parents. We are thanking, I've asked staff, please thank every child. When they get out of the car, say, thank you for being here today. We are so happy to see you. And so not a child enters that building that doesn't have an interaction with an adult before they ever start their day. And that's all I've got to offer right now, I think, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Anybody have any burning questions?
Can you hear me? It's Katie.
Yeah, go Katie.
Rhonda, thank you. I like that approach of asking the teachers for some feedback. I think that gives a little bit more in-depth kind of look at what's going on. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I nod to Gary. He walked me through that one, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, nice job.
Thank you, everyone. Feel free to come by and visit. We've got coffee.
Yeah, we did. We really enjoyed our visit there. But now once things are starting to change again, I think we're gonna have to do it all over.
We'd love that. Oh, and the biggest piece of news, Jefferson Elementary now has a swing set. The kids are going nuts. It's crazy. We've got a big swing set. We just got it in this Monday. So everyone's having a lot of fun with that.
Good.
Excellent. Okay, so with that, if there are no other questions or comments, we'll head on to Hamilton. Mr. Pringle.
Right, thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate the chance to go ahead and share a little bit what's going on at Hamilton. You know, an awful lot of what both Jeff and Rhonda said are happening at Hamilton too. You know, we're talking about the IPP, we're talking about the UDL, Universal Design of Learning. And a lot of that is nice. We've had high percentage. I think we're at 84% at Hamilton has finished those modules 2 and module 4. And I would say, you know, most of the teachers were familiar with that before, but it's a good relearning, and it's good to put that out front once again. You know, when you go ahead and you look at our mid-year CSIP, some of the themes are, again, reoccurring throughout all of the schools. Again, you know, you look at ELA and math progress, high engagement when the kids are in there. There's that whole concept. I remember we were at Atlanta a couple of years ago, and I was speaking to the other recipients, and I had said, you know, there's that concept that a school needs to believe that all students can learn, but I think all of us actually have the philosophy of not they can, but they will. So if you approach it that way, that all students will learn and they will reach their potential and exceed their potential, that's a key part of any success of any building. And I think that's why Port Angeles has been so successful, not just at one school, but at all the schools. One of the things that I had also done with my staff, and that's, you'll see a lot more numbers in this than I normally do in a mid-year, is I also wanted to get kind of a grasp on online participation engagement. We can go ahead and talk generalities, but I wanted specifics. So not only when they were giving me where students were at standard in both ELA and math, they gave me a score of 1 to 4 where the students were as far as online participation. And if they were a level 1, it meant 0 to 39% participation. A level 2 was 40 to 59. A level 3 was, if I'm remembering right, 60 to 80. And then a level 4, you had to be 90 to 100% participation online. That way, I was able to go ahead and create a spreadsheet that went and pulled out where they were on ELA, a 1 meaning below standard, a 2 meaning nearing standard, 3 at standard, 4 meaning exceed standard. And I was able to go ahead and create a correlation between online participation and how successful they are as far as reading and in math. Does that all make sense? I know I'm speaking really fast here, but now the other part that I did on there was I was able to identify those students that are free and reduced. I was able to go ahead and identify gender. I was able to go ahead and identify ethnicity. I was able to create a whole variety of spreadsheets, and I was able to manipulate the data so that I can see which groups are being impacted the most or are not being impacted the most. So if we go ahead and example and we look at the ELA square right here, you can see that 64.2% of 1 through 6 grade students are at or above reading standard. 86% of those students were level 3 or 4 engagement online. Now, if you go to the cell that's on the other side, you know, we're looking at approximately 35% of students were below standard, but of that 35%, nearly half of them, 45%, were at a level 1 or 2 participation. And if you go ahead, and I'm not going to walk you through the whole thing, you know how to read. So if you go ahead and you look at the math that goes through there too, you will see that it actually is holding true there as well. 69% of the students are at or above grade level in math. 77% of those were 3 or 4 participation. If I go ahead and I look at my math numbers, we have 47 students totally in grades 1 through 4 who are exceeding the standard. So they're a level 4. Of those 47 students, 45 of them are a 3 or a 4 in online participation. Only 2 of them are at a level 2 and none are at a level 1 when it came to participation. I have 24 students in math who are a level 1, so they're below standard in math. Of that 24, 58% of them were a level 1 in online participation. I cannot overemphasize the impact that having to rely 3 days of online learning has had it on our kids. And it's not no fault to nobody. I mean, it's been wonderful. The district has done great work getting us a family navigator. Our counselors have gone out, our teachers have gone out, and we've really tried to help families. And I'm not blaming families either. You have multiple families that have parents who are working. I mean, it's been a stressful situation, but this truly has had just a tremendous impact. And we are looking forward to being able to have the kids every day, even if it's half a day. I can guarantee you, and I told the Superintendent Brewer this before, when the students are in our building, they are learning. There's no option. We don't give them that option. You're going to learn. You're here. Now, as far as everything else that kind of goes through there, you know, we looked at other categories, and one of the ones that came out really interesting was we looked at gender, and we looked at what the impact has been on gender, and ELA scores. So 65% of females are at or above. 63.4 of males are at or above. It's a difference of 1 student. They're almost identical. When we looked at math, we looked at female at 67.5% were at or above, 70% of male. Again, it's a difference of 1 or 2 students on there. When I looked at online engagement, 69% to 70%. It made no difference whether male or female, whether they were at standard or the online engagement. The key part was that online engagement. Now, when I looked at free and reduced, that was where the impact hit. And that's what spoke to us the most. When we looked at ethnicity, there wasn't a significant difference. What made the big difference was when you were talking about free and reduced versus non-free and reduced. The difference in ELA for free and reduced was 53% and then 72% in non-free and reduced. That's a 20% difference in there. When we looked at math, it was even more significant. Free and reduced was 50% of our students at or above standards, while it was 82% for non-free and reduced. And now look at this number. When it looked at online engagement, participation, our free and reduced participation at a 3 and a 4 was 47%. That means 53% of our students who were free and reduced were at a level 1 or 2 for online percentage. For our non-free and reduced, 87.4%. And that's where the big impact has been. And again, it's at no fault to any of the families. I'm not saying that. The families were struggling, and it had a tremendous impact. So that, again, that is why we are so happy that the teachers in the district were able to go ahead and get these students coming back to us. It's just tremendous. Now, as far as the culture goes, we're continuing to have The same things that we did at Hamilton, we're just kind of doing it virtually as best that we can. We have super citizens, we have pencils of power, we're doing our golden awards. We sent home the family postcards, all the different things that we traditionally did before, we're trying to do again. The sad thing is that, a key part of us, for those of you who've been to a Hamilton assembly, we haven't been able to have those, and that's been a big disappointment. But I've blabbered on now. You got 5 minutes. It's 5:55. I apologize. I know it wasn't inspiring, but I wanted to get those numbers out to you. So, questions you may have for me?
Anybody?
I do.
Please.
Yes.
I just want to say, all three of you guys are doing an excellent job. I would say, I'm not even going to say under the current conditions, just period. You're doing a good job. I think it's about to get better. I'm glad that you put the numbers to that, Gary, because it's not surprising that when we have a technological, where technology is required for learning, that the gap grows the biggest in socioeconomic areas, right? Like that's it's not surprising. Like we knew it was going to happen. And so it's all the more reason to get to this AM PM model and get the kids in school 5 days a week. I read through all of your SIPs, and the barrier for all of them seemed to be the same thing. 2 days in school a week is not enough for these kids to learn what they need to. And so I like that just this bargaining thing that came through last night, this new plan that's going to come out is going to kind of step on all those barriers that you guys all posted. So I'm liking where we're headed.
And quite honestly, if I may just really quickly throw this out
Please.
there, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly, but one of the things that we discovered is that with only 2 days, a student misses 1 day, and that's half the time they're with a teacher. And that has had a tremendous impact as well. So when we can get them there 5 days engaged with a teacher, that is so powerful. The connection that they have, where you look eyeball to eyeball with a teacher, and then you make that personal connection, and then the teacher can leverage that connection to go ahead and achieve more than they think they can achieve. I mean, you think about that teacher that inspired you the most, and it wasn't through a screen, it was that person-to-person communication, and we're really looking forward to getting back to that.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to thank all three principals tonight for referencing the importance of the in-person learning. Grace and forgiveness is what we've asked for all year long. We've had a lot of curveballs thrown at us, and we've done our very best. We've thrown a lot of curveballs, and one of those curveballs, we're about to see the result of that, which will be, the parents are surprised with this move. But hearing the story of the three principals justify the purpose for making that move. It's never the intent, and I'm going to say this in the regular meeting, but I want our board to hear this really clearly tonight. It was never the intent to surprise anybody. It's the nature of the work right now as it relates to working systems and creating systems and, honoring the bargaining process. We're bound by, confidentiality in a lot of cases. So it was not the intent of the superintendent or this board or this administrative team to surprise anyone. What the intent is to do what's best for children and make a difference. And simply put, and I'm glad to hear from all three principals, we couldn't wait another 9 weeks. I've already heard, well, why don't you just wait till the end of the year? We can't afford that. Now is the time. And so thank you, all three principals, for redefining that this evening and staying focused on that piece and the work moving forward. And it's not going to be easy. The next week and a half, we're going to have a lot of, critical comments, but we know in the end, it's for the right reason. So thank you, all three principals. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And may I just add one thing as well?
Please.
Superintendent, you and I see eye to eye when it comes to getting kids back in the building. as soon as humanly possible. That goes through there. Partway through the year, we had already done the hybrid, and I got a call from a teacher I knew from Olympia, and they were just starting to do hybrid, and many of the concerns that we had and our staff had, they were having. And I was able to arrange a meeting with some of my staff, with their staff, and just walked them through what we went ahead and did in our district and at Hamilton in particular. And it made them feel so much better and more comfortable walking into it. And I think with Port Angeles taking the point of getting kids back, and I know we'll catch some feedback on it, but just us taking point of getting kids back 5 days a week is going to have such a tremendous impact on the community and our kids. And it just demonstrates once again how our district will take point on knowing what the most important thing is, which is school learning. And I really appreciate that.
Me too.
Thanks, Gary, and all of you for coming and giving us your SIPs. And the only thing that I think lets any of us sleep at night is that we know that this is a worldwide issue. And so our kids aren't specifically, I'm happy that our kids are sort of on the, as far as I'm concerned, on the front end, which I think, Gary, is what you're speaking to. Instead of being on the reactive end, we're on the proactive end. So yeah, I think we're doing good. So thank you to all of you. And so now we'll leave with all that uplifting talk from our principals, and Kira's going to keep us going.
Okay, budget.
All right, good evening, everyone. Get
Good
to
evening.
everyone's favorite topic, budget. I know you love it.
My favorite.
I know. Oh man. Okay, so I have just some slides that I'll talk through today, and we have 2 board members that have never gone through a budget process. So I'm going to try to kind of describe some of the things that we'll go through and answer any questions that you might have, and then also just have a discussion about some of the areas that you are thinking about, or a direction you want me to investigate, and prepare numbers or prepare anything to present as part of the budget process. So this is just the first step of our budget development, and having a conversation. I'm going to explain where we are and what the district is thinking as far as budget initiatives and enrollment as well. And then we'll just hopefully have a nice discussion about what you'd like me to bring back. So again, here's an overview of what I'm going to chat about this evening. I'm going to review the current year-end fund balance projections, talk about our average enrollment, our FTE, and what we think we'd like to budget on for next year, discuss those budget priorities, and then next steps. So here's my budget projections. This is really what drives that fund balance chart, the 4-year fund balance chart that you see every week, every month. I just try to break down every month and watch that final fund balance there, and see the fluctuation throughout the year and compare this year to last year. Here you can see that I'm figuring about a $500,000 loss on the year at 4.2. Just over 4.2. So, you know, we went through all of the processes to try and balance that budget. Once we had that lack of enroll, or the dip in enrollment, we're able to, you know, balance with attrition and getting creative with our staffing this year, not filling positions, and that difference you see of the 500,000 is really the transportation and that funding that hasn't come through from the state. And I honestly don't think that it will at this point. So a lot of funding has been backfilled by the ESSER 1 grant with our unrealized enrollment. So that's helped us balance the budget as well as being creative with our staffing. So it's it's really that 500,000, and and then moving forward, I'll talk a lot about ESSER 2, which we're going to use for next year with the CARES grant and the ESSER 2 funds that the state has allocated to us. So any questions about fund balance or how I got there so far?
So Kira, tell me what the board policy says. Is it 4%, correct?
Yes, 4% of expenditures. So I believe it's about, right now it's about 2.2 million, our fund balance, and it fluctuates every month based on how much we've spent every month.
Thank you.
Sure. So looking ahead, as far as enrollment goes, we're really, we want to be very, very conservative. We've been conservative every year, and continuing to lower that, and just hoping that once we see the kids that we can anticipate more funds coming. But we have received we started the year about 250 down from budget, so we have received about 50 more students have enrolled, so we're at an average of about 208 down from budget. So in past years we've rolled those all the kids up into the next grade, and then brought kinders in, and we kind of had an idea of how much we would have. And this year it's really difficult to do that. I don't think that that's a good direction to head. So I'm looking at, and I'll show you in the next slide of where we're averaging this year at 3258 for FTE. And so, with the enrollment like that, not really knowing what kids are coming back, we have to, we're going to have to kind of find those funds somewhere else, because really we're budgeting for less than we try to balance the budget, but this year with the enrollment not knowing, we're really actually going to budget for I don't want to say we'll budget to not balance. We have to watch everything, and I'll show you in the slide what I'm talking about. So here you can kind of see that trend over the last few years. As it's declined, we average, and these are yearly averages. So what we wind up closing the year at, in 1920 it was 3518. This year our average as of March is 3285. So you can see that trend. We're down at about 3270. So that is less than the average, but I really think that we need to be that conservative and base our budget off of 3070. If they come back, great. If we have more, then we'll adjust, and we'll continue to watch what it goes. So I wish we had a crystal ball, but we've really been watching with Seaview, watching where those kids are going. We had a huge influx this year with Seaview. They've been doing a survey and talking with parents. As of now, we have 170 kids enrolled at Seaview saying, yes, we're going back. We're enrolled, we're good to go. So that's 170. 88 have said they're not sure. Maybe if they go back to hybrid, they're kind of still on the fence. 48 have surveyed and said if we're hybrid, they will come back to Seaview. So of course, now that we're making these announcements and moving forward about being in school every day, parents might change their mind. We still have 262 kids enrolled at Seaview that we're not sure what they're going to do. So
Here, as we go into next year, is that 3 through 12 or is that K through 12?
I believe that, Marty, can you chime in there?
Yeah, the initial application for multi-district was 3rd through 8th or 3rd through 12th grade. But this year, we're still kind of assessing that. And our trend, Cindy, is looking at K-12 because we've learned a lot about the K-2 program. In fact, I think we do it better than a lot of districts do, and it's a really difficult part of the program. But right now, the application was 3 through 12, but we may take some steps to make it a K-12 program for next year. In fact, I'm going to take it further, not may, we will have some options for K-2 next year.
I think we need to announce that soon because I'm hearing parents saying, if you're not doing it, I'm not coming back.
Okay.
And they'll either go to Queen of Angel or they'll go to Crescent.
Yeah. For an ALE program?
Just the online. They have enjoyed being in kindergarten, at least in first grade. I have several people who have said, we're going to stay there, but if you don't offer it, and we're hoping you're going to offer it. But they're, like what happened this year, a lot of them went there because they said we couldn't wait till like a week or two before because we had to get our work schedules done. So I think the sooner we can announce that, the more that those parents will be stable about, because they've had a good experience at Seaview.
Yep. Well, we've gotten really good at the K-2 programming this year. The hard work of Cindy Crum and all the teachers at the primary level have done really good work. There's not, it's not as simple as adopting ingenuity at the K-2. And so they've done yeoman's work this year. But I want to move back around to this slide here. This is one of the most important decisions that you will make tonight to set our course on how we're building our budget based on FTE. And Kira has, outlined our projection for next year at 3270. And you can see the trend line there. I know that's, much lower than many of us would feel comfortable with, but as Kira's referenced, like this build a budget being very conservative. And if the students come back, then we can, we can adjust staffing accordingly. But this is a key slide in this evening's conversation around this. What does the board expect us to build a budget upon, or budget off of, as far as enrollment?
I really think we should go to 3235, but
3235. So you
yeah,
said?
I just think that we need to look about 50 because I still don't think that we're stable enough. And just, I think just parents not having the certainty if they're going to bring their kids back. And if we're hearing that this could go until November, they'll be staying where they're at or leaving or doing something else. So there's a lot of movement right now, especially like in the house sales and rentals and Dry Creek. It's like crazy right now.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good point. And well, I'll keep going and kind of talk about the revenues and how that affects.
I had a couple of questions, Kira.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry.
So I guess there are, I had 3 thoughts. I can remember 2 out of the 3. Third one I hope will come back. But what are kindergarten registrations looking like? What are anticipated running start numbers for next year? And the third one was this year, I believe that Seaview counts as an FTE, right? Like we're calculating Seaview as FTE, and that's, I think there's been some FTE calculations that are a little different with Seaview before this year, but I'm just wondering if FTEs will be counted the same way next year for Seaview. And so they're considered full FTE. So.
Yes, so they are considered full FTE. We're funded differently for a Seaview student than we are for a regular basic ed student. So a full-time FTE is paid about $300 less. It's not that much less, but the state just doesn't pay us for the MSOCs, the material, supplies, and operating costs for a ALE student the way they pay for a basic ed student. So so we do, I think this year was a difference of about 250,000 between the students the students that were enrolled as far as our revenues go. So So it is a little bit different, not a tremendous amount different, but we do have that 3285 does include the average of, you know, there we started off with about 900 CVU students, and now we're down to, I think it was about 750, because kids have migrated back to their buildings as well. So yeah, I anticipate a little bit less for ALE, but not that much. So kinders, we're starting to enroll our kindergartners. Running Start has been pretty stable each year. This year it was up a little bit, like 3 or 4 students. We didn't see, I think there's been an average of about 133 students. And so, you know, I do think that a lot of students that might have opted to go to Running Start, they were able to enroll in CVU. And that was, I think, you know, there's some kids that need that flexibility, which CVU offers, but maybe aren't ready for college classes. So that helps with that vision. And they do stay in our system and can, you know, still participate in other items as well. So they can participate in, you know, in music or CTE, or be a part of a building, and also be at CVU if they choose. So that changes their FTE just a little bit as well. Does that answer your questions?
I guess the only thing is the kindergarten. We don't have any idea what the kindergarten registration is. Is it looking full? Is it about like it usually is? You know, sometimes there's big kindergarten classes and sometimes there's not. So I'm just, you know, I mean, I don't know. It's probably in the weeds for this conversation, but I guess I'm leaning more towards what Cindy's talking about, like even more conservative budget planning. So I just was wondering if there was anything that could help sway it one way or another. And those seem to be the 3 factors that I could come up with. So.
And I think the one factor that we have to make sure that we account for is the multi-district service model for ALE. That's really a shot in the dark with regards to what, you know, students we're going to pull from across the state of Washington in districts to service here. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of moving targets this year. I'm going to hope for the best around bringing more students from out of our district service area for ALE, which will really help us in this conversation around budget planning for the future. Unfortunately, you won't know that for planning this year's budget. That's the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Marty, this is Sandy. I have a couple of things I need to ask. First of all, this is really a statement more than a question, but I am so firmly convinced that we need to get those K2 children into school, not in ALE. They need to be in school. Of all the children that we serve, they need to be in school more than anybody else. And I really would like to see us do whatever it takes to communicate to parents that that is the best choice for their children, period. I mean, K through 2 on ALE to me is just not going to ever do what we want to do for young children, get them ready to get into 3rd grade. The other issue is I want to know if we can get a report about the Running Start students at the end of this school year to see how many of them passed their courses or you know, are coming back or not going to Running Start. And I don't know how we get that. Katie, you might know that since you work out there. How those records are kept or those statistics are kept about Running Start.
They're kept with our counselors. Our counselors have to track those people.
Well, can we get a report on those? I really, you know, I was looking at the Kara's report on attendance, and it really concerns me that you know, there are a lot of students in Running Start. I know this. I intuit it. It's not data-based. But from being a college professor, I intuit that a lot of them aren't going to make it. They're not going to do what I think they're gonna do. So could we, Marty, ask for a report on that sometime in the future?
Yes, we can bring a report at the end of the school year based on running start success and challenges.
Okay, thank you.
And for your answer for the K2 ALE program, I think we have to be careful with that. Because if we don't offer a program, those families, because we're a school choice state, and maybe that's, maybe that aligns with, kind of their lifestyle or choices around educational system. We might force them to, go elsewhere. And, as we've taken the position around CView, if you're going to choose an ALE program, choose ours, because we can do it better. I want to believe that, and I know that we will get to that point where we will be a well-respected, ALE service model across the state of Washington. So, most certainly, we can encourage families to consider brick and mortar schooling, but it's probably going to be wise for us to have options for families. And that may be one of the menu of options that a family could choose from.
I didn't mean to say that we shouldn't offer it. I'm just saying that when we communicate with parents, I think we ought to encourage them to have their children in school, their little kids in school. Okay,
Gotcha.
and 1 and 2.
All right, thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the statement you made about transportation? Because I know that, transportation has been a big part of our budget, but I also know that Senator Wellman's working on a bill that we go back and our transportation numbers would be based on last year's budget, not this year's budget, as we move forward for at least a year or two.
Yeah, and so, legislation moving forward into next year is a possibility that they would help us balance that. I'm just talking about this year specifically because we're paid, the revenue that we receive for transportation is based on ridership. So we have had, our ridership has been a lot lower. And so that was the difference of about $750,000 in revenue for the transportation department. So I believe the state is, because of the way the ESSER 1 was funded, I believe that the state is assuming that ESSER 1 will backfill that this year.
Talking about it for a couple years. She's talking about it for a couple years and going back and using not last year's numbers, but when we were stable.
Right. So we would be funded next year based on what we received last year, correct?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at that number and look at that bill, but there's a couple bills that are out there. But every conversation I've been in with Senator Wellman, she's talking about, that's one of the things they're working very hard on, is making sure that we get backfilled for that transportation part.
Great, yeah. So moving forward with how that ridership is, and our ridership will go up now that we are, having kids come back, and I know the count date is a little bit different as far as when the next count date. I know that wouldn't, but if the new legislation comes into effect, it really wouldn't matter because they would go back to what we had last year. So it'll be interesting to see how they work that out.
Right, and we'll know that before we adopt the budget.
Correct.
Yeah, thanks.
And that, and Kira's previous slide, which referenced our end of year fund balance, will, if there's a correction to that, that would significantly change our end of year outlook. And so that would be more than welcome. The real challenge, and we know this here, but we need to continue to advocate for ourselves, is that, we're running buses more than ever before. I mean, we're running now, moving into this next phase after spring break, we're going to be running 6 routes a day, 6 runs a day, AM, PM, 2, AM 2 routes, PM 2 routes, and then secondary 2 routes. And so we're logging more miles and putting more time into human resources than ever before. And so any kind of support we can get from the legislature would be very beneficial to our district, and I think any district across the state of Washington. If you're trying to run a hybrid, the efficiency is just not there.
Yeah, Marty, that'd be good to share it a couple, maybe in a month. Give me that data and I'll take it to our legislators and to Senator Wellman.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay, so moving forward with the just how to balance the budget and what the resources we will have, whether we choose, whether we choose the 3235 or the 3270, it's even for the difference from what our average is now onto 3270 is in revenue is about a difference of $133,000. So even just 15 students is, the salary and benefits for a teacher. So it really, we have to make those decisions really carefully based on what kinds of projections that we're looking at, and those ESSER II funds this year can help that. So I broke down what the difference really looks like with our projections, just based on our revenues and projections. If everything would stay exactly the same this year. So we received, students came in, we had an average of 3258 show up, and the revenues that we received for that, it'd be a total of 42.1 million in apportionment.
Hey, Kara, are you looking at that document on your screen? Because we're not.
You're not?
No.
Oh. Okay, let me see what I can do here. Come up?
No.
Oh, okay.
Look at your windows.
Yes, sorry. The hyperlink would have been so handy if I could do it right.
You're doing great.
Thanks. How about now?
There. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, make it bigger. Okay. So the apportionment that we would receive if the state comes through with their state budget and they say, you're receiving exactly the same amount in apportionment per FTE, and we have an increase of IPD and a decrease of regionalization. I mean, all of those pieces that are affected by our revenue. This also includes our total revenues, not in apportionment. So any of our federal funds, safety net, we did receive about $100,000 less in safety net this year. So I would anticipate that for next year as well. Our local taxes are going to increase. We figured about a 1% from the assessed valuation up. So we would receive 5.8 million. It'll probably be a little bit above 5.8 million. So all of those wrapped up into that, we would receive 48.8 million in total projected revenues. Now, just taking our year-end projected expenses for this year, increasing for step and column, just advancing everyone to the next step on the salary schedule. And possibly they are talking about a 1%, maybe some kind of IPD at the state. We're just not sure yet. We're close to $1 million, close to $1 million increase. We have heard that workers' comp is going to go up, and then also our insurance will go up about $150,000. So you can see our expenses to revenues. If enrollment doesn't change, we're looking at finding $3.2 million. We've already committed to purchasing our one-to-one Chromebooks, and we're working on that as a district. So some of those ESSER2 funds are going to be allocated to replacing Chromebooks. So that's $850,000. So the amount that we would use out of the 4.3 million that we were allocated from ESSER would be 3.8 million. So there's a difference of $500,000 there that we could play with. But what we really are, thinking to, because it's so we just don't know what to expect, that using those dollars to pay for areas of the budget that do pay for students' learning loss. Some our counselors, there's just a lot of different areas across the district that we can actually charge an expense to that ESSER grant. So that we're not having to completely, we have the ability to replace some of those resignations and retirements, and not, another $3.2 million. So instead of cutting that, we're really hoping to be able to not dip into fund balance and be able to offset some of those costs with our ESSER2 funds. So Marty, do you have anything you want to add there?
Yeah, this is a critical slide. Our recommendation tonight for budget planning is to take the ESSER2 dollars and maintain existing staffing. Now, if we only come in at 3258 or 3235, whatever we budget at, we'll be overstaffed. But we can strategically use, if we maintain our staffing, we can strategically use these dollars to allocate resources to individuals within our system to address learning loss. So let me just give you a hypothetical. If we're overstaffed at the high school by 3 staff members, we could utilize these funds to help students recover credits and address their learning loss issues in credit recovery type programs, in other programs that can help students catch up the loss in learning that they've experienced. And so we have, for 3 years now, we've reduced budget. We've riffed 2 out of 3 years, and we've reduced budget the other year. My recommendation this year is to not do that, because we have that really, there's a potential, and you heard it in the governor's release today, that there is an expectation that students are back in-person learning minus social distancing, full time next year. So if that happens, my hope is we'll see a return of some of our students that have chosen to homeschool, private school, ALE programs elsewhere. And this would give us the ability to be able to address that in a staffing manner. But one of the things that like for instance, we're tracking retirements and resignations now, and we could not fill positions through attrition, but most of the positions that are retirement or resignations at this point in time are critical positions moving around addressing learning loss and social emotional needs of students. We have 2 counselors right off the top, and so I really think that this is a concept that the board needs to consider in moving forward, so that we can maintain our staffing, not do another round of riffs, and address learning loss. Worst case scenario, if the FT doesn't come in, worst case scenario, we're using those positions that could be overstaffed to address learning loss. If the FTE comes back, then you've got all this additional dollar that you can address learning loss. So I think it's like a win-win. And the other piece that's not outlined this evening, and we didn't put it in the presentation tonight, is the ESSER 3 funds.
Yeah.
Because those are, you know, on course to be allocated to school districts as well. But we're just not there yet. And that's a significant sum of money as well. That's for our district over $10 million. So, and that again is to address reopening of schools, learning loss, and, you know, moving forward. But that's not a, you know, that's a one-time allocation, and it's got to last through what, Kira, the end of 2023?
2023, yeah, September 2023.
So this is a key concept tonight that the board really, we want your feedback on this concept of, you know, maintaining staffing and using ESSER $2 to do so. You know, so that we're prepared for learning loss as well as return of students.
Marty, would that, when you talk about learning loss and the ESSER 2 funds, would that cover this summer? When
Yeah.
you talk about, is that going to include some summer school?
Yeah, we'll have some summer options, which will be using ESSER funds as well. Yes.
Will we be using regular general funds also?
Go ahead, Kira.
We do have some categorical funds, some title and other federal funds that were allocated this year to that. And so, you know, we still want to be able to use those categorical funds that we've already been awarded.
Okay.
And it's important to continue to use those as well. So
Those are state funds, huh?
Yes, state and federal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of ESSER though?
Outside of ESSER, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions about this concept or?
I don't really have any questions about it so much as I can't remember a year, honestly, where we haven't just let attrition happen and then wait until and do some mad hiring in the fall to fill up if we got a bump in enrollment. So I'm nervous about not just taking advantage of the easy street, which is just don't replace anybody who retires. And I understand what you're saying, Marty, that these are some of these jobs are non-negotiables. We have to refill them, but I can listen to the powers that be and relax a little bit about it. But it's going to be hard for me to not want to just not fill any positions.
Well, and it will also help too when we have more information about the state budget. You know, we really don't have anything yet. We haven't heard what we'll receive for FTE and the different our different LAP and other categorical funds. It's still an unknown right now, and they're still debating all of that. So we'll have another opportunity, you know, moving forward to talk about that, and I'll be able to not just have projections based on this year, but I'll be able to show you what it will look like after the state passes their budget. So hopefully you'll feel a little bit better about both ends of it.
Kira, could I ask you another question about the Chromebook stuff?
Yeah.
Or do you want to wait till we get there?
You can ask now, or I can go ahead.
Well, I guess the question is, every child who needs a Chromebook has one. Is that correct right now?
That's correct.
Now, that's not every child though, right? Every student, some students are using their own computer technology at home.
Yes, some students do have their own, but if they needed one, they were able to get one. Okay,
but if we're going to bring students in before the end of the year, and that's going to, bring them in for half days. It's my understanding that then the teachers will not have to teach on computers. Is that correct? Asynchronously, or whatever that word is.
Yeah, elementary will remove minus the music and PE, a basic ed elementary teacher will not have asynchronous work moving forward. That is correct.
Okay,
They will be taught in person and be given assignments, just like in, you know, a normal year for
Right.
afternoon work. If they're a morning student, you know, they will get their in-person learning assignments for the afternoon, and then they could do some asynchronous work for PE and music,
okay,
not through the basic ed teacher, and vice versa for the PM student.
okay.
But I want to,
So
I
what
do
does
want
that
to,
mean for Chromebooks? Each student having a Chromebook? They'll just keep the one they have till next year, or?
No, they will turn in their Chromebook at the end of the school year. So there's a plan for them to return those to their school in June.
Okay, thank
and
you.
part of the challenge we've had with Chromebooks this year, although we have enough Chromebooks to cover the entire population, that doesn't mean we have a viable Chromebook for each student within our system. Some of our technology is outdated.
Okay,
And students and adults struggle to use it. So what you're going to see in the Chromebook initiative here that Kira will share is a pretty substantial commitment in year 1 and 2 to get us back on track to have viable Chromebooks for all of our students K through 12.
okay. And will we be using ESSER money for that, or where does that funding come in?
Yes, we will use ESSER funding to replace the Chromebooks.
Okay, thank
Uh,
you.
Yeah, and that's one of the pieces that they that the ESSER dollars actually cover is technology.
Good,
So,
good.
yeah. Okay, can you guys see that? That's the Chromebook 5-year plan.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, so this month we went out for RFP for the first round of replacement Chromebooks, and you'll actually review that and consider that tonight at tonight's board meeting. But the quote that we received back for 1,500 Chromebooks was $401,000. That will replace. We have about 2,200 Chromebooks that are aging out. We've had we started purchasing them 5 years ago, and they just have a life for them. They last about 5 years, and then they basically become giant paperweights because the Google doesn't support them anymore. So we have about 2,200 of them that we have to replace by June of next year. So using these ESSER 2 funds, now that we have a large allocation, I think is the best way to use those in the next 2 years. So the first 2 years of our 5-year plan would be to allocate that $850-ish or $850,000 to replace all of those Chromebooks. Then,
I'm sorry, Kara.
that's okay, go ahead.
I just had more question. Probably Jared would be the person to ask. If they're turning into basically just paperweights after a year or 2 or 3 of use, have we looked? And I know you have. This is a dumb question because I know you have. But are there other platforms that might be more resilient and last a little longer? And that's
Well,
probably
these have actually lasted 5 or 6 years.
okay.
So it's not that they are only good for a year or 2. But with the student Chromebook and the way it's just the right product for schools. And each Chromebook is only, let's see, I think it was $265 with tax out the door for a whole set. That's with the license, the new computer, the new setup, that's pretty inexpensive when you have to buy thousands of them. Other laptops and other types of technology for students is quite a bit more. I mean, triple that. So So beginning in 2023, we will begin that 20% replacement cycle of switching out older machines. So that for us would be about $700 a year and an investment of about $250,000. So that will keep that, that constant upgrade. So the need to, because we haven't put money into it every year, that's why we're now needing to put $850,000 into it, because they're all aging out at the same time. So that's what we want to get away from and have that directly in the budget. So by talking about this in our budget work session and making it a priority, the board is actually stating that that one-to-one Chromebooks is a priority, and that would be something that we'd add to our budget. So any other questions about the 5-year plan?
Mm-mm. Thank you, Kara.
Of course. So Marty's going to take over and talk about these other two initiatives. Is my screen back up? Can you see the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So as we move forward in our equity work, and I'm really proud of this board in your work, and the equity policy will be presented to the equity team beginning of next month. But I think it's really important that we do some really good work in our school district as it relates to our tribal partners. But I think we could do better. And, I've heard stories of 10, 20 years ago that we were, doing, good work, and then it just kind of fell off the plate. And that's probably not the right term. I apologize. I'm tired this evening, but, we need to have accountability, for the work that we do with the tribe. And in my belief, and I'm not presenting this tonight as a director, an administrator, but I'm presenting it as a Lower Elwha Clallam tribal coordinator that could work with our teachers and provide professional development necessary to work with our principals, to work with our tribal representatives that work within our systems, to help develop curriculum, working with our partners at the tribal center, and provide consistent feedback as it relates to the number of issues that we need to address, curriculum being right at the forefront. And so I think this person could help hold our system accountable to really make systematic change as it relates to culture, language, and history of our tribal partners. And I just think it's time, if we're serious about our equity work, that it's time. And some districts have an equity officer. I'm not interested in that at this point in time, but this would be maybe a similar role, like be our equity officer and our check and balance around working with our tribal partners and making sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do and hold ourselves accountable, and have an individual that can work with all partners in our educational delivery model to hold us accountable to the curriculum that we need to teach. And in hopes that, because we do have that grant that we are partnering with the tribe on, that is building more capacity for folks that are certificated to teach the language and having dual language opportunities beyond just the high school. And so all of this is going to take a lot of coordination. And so I really think it might be the right time to consider something like this, that the tribe could help place an individual that could be kind of their representative to our school district. So that's one. The second item that I want you to consider for this evening as a potential priority is the student learning loss concept. And that was Kira's slide around use of the ESSER funds, and really in maintaining staffing And if we are overstaffed because, you know, our enrollment comes in at 3,250, we can allocate those resources to address learning loss in a lot of different, you know, creative ways. We're going to be very creative moving forward, and it'll look different at each level. But just as we've been on the forefront of, you know, implementing change as it relates to COVID practices and trying to lead that work, we're going to lead the work as it relates to learning loss as well, and help our students recover those skills. So those are two concepts that I wanted to bring to, or three concepts that we wanted to bring to the table this evening for the board to consider in priorities and considerations moving forward into next year's budget.
Are there any other items that you would like to discuss or have me look into and bring to you in June?
I'd like to have a little conversation about the Lower Alwa Clown Tribe District Coordinator. First of all, it's not, I'm going to say this again, it's not called equity, it's called government to government. It is a government, a sovereign government that we're going to negotiate with. The other thing is, I think before we move much further, I know when we met with the tribal council and staff that we talked about bringing Dr. Laura Lynn in from OSPI to talk about STI. Laura does a good overview about government to government and consultation. I think that we need our staff to understand what government to government and consultation means. So I'm going to say again, culture, language, and history belongs to the tribe. Tribal members are the only ones who can deliver that and teach that. And it's what they choose to share with our public schools. So I would like more conversation over that Lower Alwa Clown Tribe District Coordinator position as it relates, as we move forward. And Marty, yes, we probably 10, 20 years ago, we probably had, it was a different relationship. It's still good in some areas. It's just probably not arisen at the level that many people thinks it should have been by this point. But I think there's still some good work that's still going on. When Jamie retires, that's going to be a total different story, because she's been such a foundation of the history and bringing the whole tribal history of the state into our school. And then Kira, the other part I would talk about is, I guess I would, as we move, I think we so much lack a technology person that we really need another technology person. I know we gave that up last year in the budget, but I don't think we're out of the woods regarding technology. I'm glad we're doing the Chrome one-on-one. Many districts did that many years ago. We probably could have done that if we'd had the money to do that. I think that was the desire of the board for many years. And as we talk about student learning loss, it was interesting. I was on a conversation yesterday, and there was a comment made that you don't know what you didn't lose if you didn't learn it. So I think as we move forward, I think that education is going to look a lot different than what we looked at for the last many years. I think that you will see education looking a lot different. There's a lot of talk about, you probably saw that there's a waiver out there that the states applied to the feds regarding less testing. I think you'll see more of that going on, even though some people think we should test. There's a lot of conversations going on in a lot of different arenas, but thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. All right, any other thoughts or questions, comments?
I don't know that I have really anything to add. I mean, I have wish lists of things that I wish we could have, but I don't think this is the year for my wish lists. So I think I probably speak for everybody that we all have things. I would love to end pay to play. That would be great, in my opinion. Like, it's ridiculous and horrible that we have to ask little children to pay for their own athletics. But this isn't the time right now to do that, and I understand that. So I guess I'm gonna, my wish lists are gonna have to wait a little bit.
Okay.
And I have a wish list also, and I know that you're tired of hearing about it, everybody, but I want to look at year-round school. for elementary schools. I've wanted it for years. I know that it works. The research is out there. It's not so positive for children who are progressing in a normal fashion, but it really is important for kids who have problems in school and who need year-round school without big gaps of time where there aren't in school. So that's something I'm going to be harping on for the next till I see it done until I'm gone.
And Sandy and I have had this conversation, and we've had it with Marty as well. But we both understand that this school year isn't the one, but it's something that coming up the next school year is something that I think we are both very set on it being worked on, planned for, and in our next budget, it should be. And we're not talking, we have not started with every school goes right to all year. We're talking about maybe we start with one school and one elementary school. So, but it obviously takes a lot of time to work on, and we will get there. But that is something that we're both very committed to, starting that work and that conversations.
And I do want to say, since this is a public forum and I know there are people listening, and when they hear year-round school, I want to define what my ideas are, and it's using the 180 days just in a different schedule. So
Some districts out there doing that right now, looking at that.
there are lots of districts all over the country doing it, and I think we need to be jumping in there as soon as we can. And I know this in the year, but I'm going to say next year we need to plan for that.
I'm with you.
Thank you. Yay.
Yeah.
I'm with you too.
Please get input from the parents before we do that.
Again, this would just be something that at this to start with would be one school, and it would be a choice type situation. It would not be anybody being forced into this system. It would start out small, and with parents deciding that I want to be at that school where they're doing year round. So nobody's going to be forced into a situation yet.
What am I going to do with this giant shoehorn I brought, Sarah?
Does it have a little baby in it?
Okay, that's
Okay,
good.
so moving forward, we do have another budget work session scheduled for June 10th. So I will, we didn't, I heard 3235. You want me to bring those, bring a budget based on 3235 or?
Well, okay, again, Kara, can you just refresh me? How much lower is your budget that you've started sketching out here? How much lower is that enrollment?
From where we're at right now?
Yeah.
15. So we
Okay.
went from 30, we have 3285 right now, and I'm suggesting 3270.
Okay. So I think that, yes, lower, which is unfortunate. We're going to make more cuts or go into our fund balance more. But I think Cindy's right that it's just, yeah, I think we better err even more on the side of caution.
Okay. So I will bring estimates back based on that recommendation. We'll look at what the state has offered and what their what the other categorical funds they'll have more released by the end of April. So I will be able to share that with you and the budget process. We have to have our preliminary budget turned into the ESD by July 10th. They look at that and just make technical recommendations, not necessarily what we're spending our money on, but indirects, how we're posting it, that kind of thing. So they help with that. And then we'll have our public budget hearing on August 12th and adopt on August 26th. So that's our process, and got lots of work to do before June 10th. So I'll have lots to share. So thank you for your time this evening. And if you hear anything or have questions or need anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
Kara, thank you for all
Thank you,
your work.
Kara.
Will do.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kara.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'll see you soon. I've got lots to offer tonight.
Yes, she'll be back short order. Okay. So with that, the work session on the budget, and that takes us into, I believe it is exactly 7 o'clock. So we are going to go right into our regular board meeting, and that is going to begin with Carmen Geyer is going to take us into the introduction to our remote. Oh, let me first welcome you all to the Port Angeles School Board meeting of Thursday, March 25th. Now we'll go to Carmen Geyer, who will take us an introduction to our remote board meeting.
Thank you, President Methner. Good evening. As the moderator of the Port Angeles School District Remote Board Meeting, I would like to welcome you to the March 25th, 2021 Board of Directors Board Meeting via Zoom. This meeting is being presented remotely for all attendees. Items to be mentioned before we begin is to note that this meeting is open to the public and is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board docs through our district website. If you have any comments that you would like shared with the Board of Directors, please email the Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, Jenny Wilson, at jwilson@portangelesschools.org. There will also be a portion of the meeting reserved for community comments. Agenda items to be addressed as listed. Agenda items will be addressed as listed in the agenda. Pardon me. If you wish to share comments, please use the Q&A button located at the bottom of the Zoom conference window. Submit a brief summary of your non-agenda item or the correlating agenda item number, along with your name, and wait to be called on. When it is your turn to speak, your name will be called and your mic will be enabled. Before making your comments, please state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, after which time your mic will be turned off. Video will not be enabled during your time. Accusations, foul language, other verbal abuse will not be tolerated. If you do so, you will be asked to refrain from using such language. If you continue to use inappropriate language, your mic will be turned off. If you have any concerns about individual district employees or specific complaints that require administrative response, please contact the Office of the Superintendent directly. Thank you, and back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. Which takes us to 4.02, which is our roll call. And as far as I can tell, all board members are here in addition to our 2 student representatives, which brings us to the flag salute. So if you'll join me in the flag salute, I believe putting up the flag. Thank you, Jenny. All right, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is if Director Kelly, if you would be so kind as to lead us in the acknowledgement of tribal lands.
We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved this treaty rights to this land, specifically the Clown tribes. We thank these caregivers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you. So agenda, how does the agenda look?
Good.
Great.
That's good to everyone. All right. So that moves us on to the consent agenda approval. Do I have a motion?
Director Wright moves to approve it.
Director Long seconds.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Wow, we're just cooking right along. That's going to take us to 7.01, Port Angeles School District Student of the Month. Principal Gratz should be here.
Yes, I am here.
Excellent.
Would you like me to say a few words about our outstanding Lincoln students?
That would be excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So we nominated Lakin Folsom and Crystal Donald. They're both seniors at Lincoln. So Deanne Manuel is one of our paraeducators. And I think she did an excellent job summing up both students. And so I'm going to read her comments. So Deanne says, Lincoln has shown tremendous school spirit and is an active, enthusiastic participant in all school activities. She reaches out to her fellow students with no reserve to include them and bring them out of their shell. She treats everyone with kindness and seems to thrive in spreading joy. Since she's a senior, we will miss her visits, her special treats, her trivia knowledge, and her big smile. And you guys have all had the opportunity to work with Lakin, so you know what Deanne's talking about. And then with Crystal, Deanne said, I've been impressed in Crystal's diligent efforts on Edgenuity, where she has consistently maintained the self-discipline it takes to stay on track. She is self-motivated and has been a good communicator. And Mr. Young added that Crystal has a big heart and is fun to talk with about various issues. We're just really proud of both of these students. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Very proud of them too. And as you said, we have firsthand knowledge of one of your excellent students. She's been nothing but a joy to have on the school board this year. So thank you for sharing with these kids. But then you don't get off the hook because you go right back up to, I've lost my, you're going into your report. Lincoln High School report.
Yes, and Jenny, are you sharing that presentation?
Would you like me to, Mace?
It's up to you. I can also share it. I think I have it open here. Oops, that's not going to work.
I can do it.
Okay, I do have it here that I can give it a try.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so
Here they are.
okay, can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, and we can all still see it. Is it showing my notes or is it showing the actual presentation? I can't tell.
We can see your notes as well.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm just going to go with this if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so so my name is Mace Scroggs. I'm the principal of Lincoln High School, our district's alternative high school. And I just want to go in, during the past year or so, we've kind of recrafted our mission and our vision and our value statement. So I want to go ahead and share that. The mission at Lincoln is to prepare students to become successful, knowledgeable, and inspired citizens through personalized and relevant instruction. And our vision is that Lincoln High School aims to provide a holistic education where all students realize their inherent self-worth, establish strong personal goals, and learn from a supportive staff as they prepare for a fulfilled life after graduation. And our values, which I think this is what really makes Lincoln Lincoln, is we treat everyone with dignity and respect. We're a safe and nurturing environment where students can take academic risks and are guided to discover their personal strengths, reach high academic standards, and see themselves as future graduates. All staff and students have a positive role to play in creating a healthy, collaborative, and familial learning community where individuals can be proud of their unique backgrounds and characteristics. I think that word familial represents what Lincoln is. We pride ourselves in having a family-like atmosphere and being a large family of a really diverse and incredible group of students and staff. We talked about our outstanding students already, so I won't say anything more about that. Well, I just want to reflect on last year because I don't think we got a chance to talk about what happened last year. We had 23 graduates. 9 of those graduates were 50-year seniors or beyond 50-year seniors. So these are students who I think really exemplify the resilience it takes to take a few blows, get back up again, and finish the job that they set out to do. So if I was to describe that group of graduates from last year when the pandemic hit and they had all those obstacles thrown in their way, I would say that they were a determined, enthusiastic, and resilient group. So we're, you know, just proud of them. I mean, they put up the fight and they made it through. And so this year, we already have 2 graduates. One is a Lincoln student and one was a Seaview student who chose Lincoln. So we're proud of that too. With the 2020-21 school year, we've had lots of challenges and successes. Our challenges, of course, you know, there were challenges before the pandemic too, but they were definitely exacerbated by the pandemic. So attendance and engagement, and of course, that's one of our focus areas in our school improvement plan, both for the district and for our school improvement grant. And then credit loss. We've taken a big blow in terms of the credits that students have earned. And so we're concerned about the class of 2021 and what the graduates are, you know, who's going to be able to pull through. So that's our big focus right now, especially as we are stepping into the 4th term and on the home stretch. Some of the successes this year, you know, we're pretty proud of being one of the first, if not the first schools in the district to be able to open their doors to students and get them back into the building and provide support. A lot of that has to do with how, you know, with our size and our space and how nimble we are. It was a really strong team effort, and the reception we got from the students who took that opportunity has been really positive. They're glad to be here and they're glad to have the opportunity to be in the building. We've also done some good work with our Port Angeles Education Foundation grant, good work with our school improvement grant, that's the OSSI grant. And then we have a small but strong group of potential graduates this year. So our Port Angeles Education Foundation project this year is different than previous years. Typically, we use these funds for field trips for the whole student body. Last year, we were able to go to Boeing Fields and the Aeronautical Museum. We had to cancel a second field trip because of the pandemic shutdown to Cape Flattery and Nia Bay. But it did open up some room to try some new things with the grant. So we were, Chris Edwards, one of our math teacher, he wrote the grant to create an outdoor learning space. And essentially, we haven't had any seating outdoors. So a class couldn't comfortably move out outside when the weather's nice. And so we were able to basically purchase 3 large picnic tables for Lincoln's backyard, which are large enough to hold a class once we're done with social distancing. And with some extra funds, we were able to purchase enough seating in the front yard that should be able to hold a class too. This is all part of a bigger phase, or I'm sorry, a bigger plan for Lincoln. And that's just to create an environment that has the atmosphere and the resources for students to want to be on campus and stay on campus. And so right now, this PAEF project was just the first phase, getting the seating outside. Next, we have some trees in the works, so those should be coming soon. And then after that, the plan is to start integrating some activities and extension activities that kids can use outdoors. So we've been talking about raised garden beds, a volleyball court, cornhole set, but that's all still in the planning. we just know that, you know, it's important to replace maybe some, well, we want to keep kids on campus. So we want to have good, healthy activities for them on campus. Here's a before and after shot of our backyard. So we've already got a lot of good use out of the space. And especially since school lunch is an issue, our students eat outside right now. So now they have a place to sit and eat outside. And we even have tents to cover the space when it's raining. So it's been nice. And we have a lot of students working out there as the weather turns and the sun comes out. For our school improvement funds, we also had a little more flexibility because of what's happening right now with the pandemic. And so there's a few things that we were able to put the funds towards, and that we're continuing to put the funds towards in terms of increasing our engagement, attendance, and graduation numbers. So one of the big things that happened recently, and it was actually being planned for last year, but that plan, there was a hiccup once we went into pandemic mode, is that we want to prototype a school outreach liaison. So we hired a great candidate. Her name is Tara Demers, and we share with Dry Creek, who also has school improvement funds. And she is our school outreach liaison. So her job is to get kids in the building, remove obstacles for getting kids in the building, and providing support for our students and their families. The other thing that we've been able to spend funds on is just, we're continuing with our kind of reinvigoration process of the internal space in the building too. So we started last year with creating our reading nook and a student lounge renewal with seating and collaboration tables. This year we have a whole classroom set of collaboration tables for one of our classrooms. And we were also able to start acquiring these kind of high value items that students may not have access to at home. So one of the big things this year is we got an electric drum set, an electric piano, guitars, ukulele, percussive instruments, and that's set up in the B Lab downstairs for students to access in the morning, at lunch, and after school. We also started to build our suite of arts and crafts materials for students to use for projects and enrichment activities. We started with a Cricut Maker machine. And again, we just want to make sure our students have healthy, enriching activities to do on campus and provide the access they may not have to these supplies and these materials when they're not home, or when they're that they may not have at home. Moving forward, we're continuing to focus on increasing attendance and engagement. We spoke about the outreach coordinator, materials, resources, and our overall plan of building the school environment. We are currently in the planning mode for next year as we come out of the pandemic mode, fingers crossed. And so we're looking at how we're designing the schedule, how we're expanding the course offerings and credit recovery for students, as we expect that need to be high. And then overall, we're just responding to the district's, we want to make sure that we're responding appropriately to district needs and student needs. So we have our plans for summer school underway, which will focus primarily on secondary credit recovery, because that's where we see the need. And then also continue to define our role as Lincoln High School with now that we have the introduction to Seaview Academy as the primary distance learning school. And then figuring out ways that we're able to increase our CTE access and interest-based courses. And a lot of that has to do with scheduling and then the different platforms that we bring in to the school. So I just want to thank the board and the community for all the support. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a comment. we really had fun at Lincoln the other day for our party.
Oh, good.
And I love what the way you've done the backyard or back of the school. It's just wonderful, beautifully done, very inviting. And thank you for inviting us to share in that.
Yeah, we were glad to have you.
Yes, it was very, we had to keep Sandy from taking over the music room, but
Love
made
that
it.
music room.
oh, thank you. I know it's been a very difficult year, and it seems like you all have made lemons out of lemon. No, lemonade out of lemons. Maybe lemons out of lemonade. I don't know, but thank you, Mace.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mace. It was a great day.
All right.
Okay, there's nothing further. We're going to move on to correspondence. Oh my gosh. Okay, now I'm going to be distracted. Jenny, did we have any correspondence?
Hi. We do have a couple items of correspondence that I have attached to Friday notes that are emails from parents or community members. So you will see those on Friday notes tomorrow.
Great, thank you. So that's going to move us to 9.01, teaching and learning report. Michelle Olson is going to lead us through that.
Yes, so good evening. Good to see everybody. So sorry I missed last time and my technology failed too. So we're here to talk a little bit more. Jenny's going to bring up my slides, and actually we did some updates to the slides tonight because things are changing at a really fast pace, and there'll probably be updates tomorrow. So some of this will probably change then. So we'll have her bring that up. But the very first thing I guess I would say is that teaching and learning has been incredible this school year, and our staff, from paras to teachers to everybody who supports students, like they're all in. Everybody's doing whatever they can do or asked to do to support students. Our navigators are working with every school. It's just incredible, and I'm so proud, especially when, you know, I talk with other administrators in other districts, and I hear that maybe they're just starting with kindergarten next week or something like that. And gosh, we've already been there for so long. So I can't say enough about the work that teachers are doing in the classroom and all of our support staff. So my role is really to support teaching in the classroom. So supporting principals with what they need and providing those supports to the teachers. So it's just a little report on some of the things that I've been asked to share about. We are working, go ahead, Jenny can go to the next one. So we do have a district curriculum committee that is up and running because we got to keep up with those things. And as some of you may know, the Houghton Mifflin ELA program, we've been using it for a long time. And we, it's been a struggle. It says it's aligned, but over time we've seen that alignment hasn't been super clear. And, you know, lately with the COVID and having to go online, that has really shown a light on why we need to look at a curriculum that meets all of our students' needs, that's connected to the standards, and that has not only the foundational skills for our youngest learners, but also is able to integrate STEM and social studies and the arts. So we're pretty excited about it. I have a team of almost 20. You can see their names there, but I feel like I'm with the best of the best. Like, these guys know ELA and they love it. So it's fun. One of our first, I think it was maybe our first meeting, someone asked, well, do you already have one chosen, Michelle? I'm like, nope, I don't. That's why you're here. So they know that they have a big responsibility, but they're so excited. And so we created our vision, and our vision was really like, I told them, you know, what do you imagine? Like, what is just the best thing you could think of? And so they broke up into small groups, and then we combined it all together, and you can see our team vision there on the side. But that's what we're keeping in front of us. And we know that we're looking for something pretty amazing, but we're determined to find it. And we want to be able to meet our vision and continue that way. So the team, just a couple of weeks ago, we gave them all of the reviews that are put out by Ed Reports, and they're pretty thorough. So each team member would use a Google review form, and they would go online and look at the different parts or components. And we had everybody do that. And so Morgan and Danette, who are facilitating, they've pulled that information. And now yesterday, this group looked at that. And so, you know, right away, even if you could say some that like, no way we would ever do this, that's progress, right? So they were able to knock 2 of them right off the list because of not being able to meet some of these things that we're looking for. So now, as we left that meeting yesterday, Morgan and Danette will go and make sure that we can get like hands-on copies of the materials. And we'll again start doing a deeper dive into the research and reports around that. And that will eventually lead into June to us starting to make a choice around what we will pilot in the fall. And yeah, and then I'll give you more updates on it. But again, super excited with the group of staff who I get to work with. So yeah, so going on. Alrighty, this might be my favorite too. So another committee that we are working with, and I would call it more of a team, is our Sovereignty and Time and Memorial and Clallam Language team. And so again, another incredible group of people to work with. I have been facilitating, and Morgan and Danette will be starting to co-facilitate with me. And you can see our members there. We have Jamie Valdez, Cindy Kelly, Wendy Sampson, Ashley Pitchford, Harmony Arakawa. I gotta keep practicing it. Arakawa, I think. Jonathan Arakawa, Tiffany Bloor, Summer Cooper, and Lauren Glaster is a teacher from Dry Creek. So we really want to create a stronger community and understanding of our Lower Elwha Clallam tribe. You know, we have the MOU with the tribe that's very specific on what our responsibilities and commitments are. And certainly the state has RCWs around that as well. Our group of tribal members, like, they are so fun and they know so much. And this work is really guided by them. This isn't what the district wants. The tribe has this opportunity to share with us what they feel is most important around the history, the culture, the traditions, the government. And so their role is critical in how we move this out. And so they've been sharing all the resources that they have, and it's incredible that what we have right here in our local tribe. And then there's all the resources from the state, which is pretty incredible. So what we'll be doing is, you know, combining those pieces together of the different resources. And our goal is we'd like to put together just a small pilot to use this spring out at Dry Creek. Just, you know, as we're coming back in every day, we want to just see what things might work and what we might need to change. So from that, we will continue our work to develop a district-wide scope and sequence. And it might be a little ambitious, but we're still gonna aim for October of this next school year to be able to have a scope and sequence and connections between the tribe and each school, to start with elementary K-6. Again, I've done the other training with OSPI, and all of our members are doing that. And that's the best training ever. I couldn't believe how much I learned, and it's helped us build that common understanding around our team. So I'm proud of the work, and I am super excited to be able to share as we go through the consultation what we've been doing. And again, I just want to reiterate that this is really about the tribe and how we show our respect and how we honor them. And they're our tribe, right? They're right here with us. So they're great, and Jamie Valdez' leadership on that, and everyone who's there is doing a great job. So just want to give you an update on that. And my next one, oh, state testing. I had to change this. So on this one, actually what I wrote here is a little bit out of date, except to say that we are not going to be required to do the SBAC in the same way. Our state is going to be doing a sampling of students across the state in kind of a one-time setting, doing a math and ELA combined assessment. So this won't be lasting over days. And so what we know as of just last Friday, grades 3 and 7 will do an ELA sort of test. Grades 5 and 10 will do math. Grade 8 will do science, and grades 4 and 6 don't have to test. So I'm sure some of them are celebrating that piece. But what will happen is the methodology has been developed by University of Washington. And so they're going to do a sampling based on the ESDs that you're in. So 50% of the districts in each ESD will be selected. And of those districts, 25% of schools will then be randomly selected. So it's not going to be even all of our schools. And, you know, I suppose there's a chance our district might not be selected, but and then all students within that grade level at the school will be assessed in that grade specific subject. So what they hope to do is get approximately 10,000 students per grade level and be able to look at that data. We will know actually tomorrow who the lucky districts and schools are. So yes, we're hoping to know that by tomorrow afternoon. And again, you know, it's a learning opportunity. I'm super excited that it's not how it was, because it would just be too much learning time to, like they're just creating more learning loss by having us do all those dates. So this seems reasonable if we need to do it. Danette has been great about keeping everybody up to date. We really have kind of paused on our planning around the testing. You know, it's not our first priority right now. It's really about getting students in every day. And then once we know for sure tomorrow, we'll start to do some planning for that, you know, which schools, what grades, and just we'll support all the schools, whoever gets chosen. But with that being said, we also know that we need to be continuing to do our in-district assessments. And so many of our grade levels do the MAP. And then we also have, you know, for our youngest readers, we're doing Fountas and Pinnell, kind of running records, the Dibbles. Teachers are doing a great job gathering information. So we will also take that information. And as we're planning for summer school, and we can go to the next slide. So, you know, principals have done their updates. You've seen all of that. But as we are going in here into these last few months, the state will require us by June 1st to complete another plan. And really what they're asking for in the plan is, you know, what data do you have on your students? What is it showing you are your gaps for learning loss? And then really, what are you going to do about it? And this is going to be tied to the next round of our funding. So already, I have the elementary principals are working on the summer school format. It's going to look a little different in that we're really being intentional with what grade levels we're focusing on, given the data that we have. And right now our data is such that the grade most impacted across K-12 is our first grade students, and then after that, our second grade students. And so we know it. And so now schools are starting to plan what they may do. We are moving away from having just one central summer school like we used to have at Jefferson, and trying to really embrace the idea of summer school at our neighborhood schools. And so that way I'm reaching out to teachers who work with these students, who know them, they're in their school. We just want to offer, learning and then a lot of fun. For middle school and high school, we're working with AmeriCorps, and for middle school and high school, kind of right after June, they're working to just show students that learning is fun, and they're going to be sharing with things like, how do you make a meal, or how would you open a bank account, really showing them like life skills. And the team of AmeriCorps with Michelle, they've all made a list of like things that they each know a lot about and how they want to be able to share that with students. So it may include field trips, it might be a community project that they're volunteering for, how to ride the bus, right? I mean, that does take skill and confidence. So they're going to be doing those kinds of things. And then at the high school, they're already starting our recovery program in that up there starting this term. We've hired Cookie Kalfer, who's amazing, and she's been through all the platforms, but she'll now be having one period a day for each grade level, where students who maybe didn't quite make it over the threshold to pass their regular class, or students who still have open Edgenuity classes from CView. If you're in 9th grade, your schedule will be situated in such a way that you'll be scheduled for this 9th grade class. And within that, you'll have Cookie, you'll have AmeriCorps members, you'll have our Native American interventionists, and they're going to be like hands-on, game on for 9th grade. But the same thing is going to happen for 10th, 11th, and 12th. So if we can get those students right now in the 4th term to get caught up on, what they may have missed all the way back to last March, this will be huge and will get us a good momentum. And what we know too is that I'm finding that it's not always consistently shared or across the grade levels about like, how could I do credit recovery? Or if I'm at this percentage, what does that allow me to do? Like, can the grade book get reopened? Can you do a contract? Like, there's a lot of different ways. And so one of the things that we're looking at, and we'll continue to work with the new principal at the high school, is how do we have those things be supports instead of barriers? And so you shouldn't have to be, the parent who has some sort of education degree to know how to figure out how to do credit recovery. It should be very clear, and all students should have access. And therefore, again, talking about equity with our staff, what does that look like? What does that sound like? And then most importantly, for elementary, the timing of the summer school, we are looking at doing a jump start in August. We want our teachers to be rested after, getting to June, and our students take a break. And so our summer school will be from August 9th to August 20th. And it'll be a half day. We'll do the same kind of breakfast, lunch thing, sending it home with kids. Teachers will have part of their day to do planning, and we're reaching out to different organizations that might want to help with that. So we have a lot going on, and that's not even talking about all the planning that we're starting for the fall. Oh, and for, in 2 weeks or so. But we're having fun. It is hard work, but this is such an amazing team, and I appreciate each one of you and your leadership, because that's where it starts, right there. So any questions or comments?
Michelle, I want to tell you, thank you very much for all the summer school stuff. Those are great opportunities for our students. And I'm glad you're thinking outside the box.
Thanks.
And I can just pass along a little. I had a parent call the other day, just really in distress that her child was not doing well. And what can I do about that? And I said, start with the teachers, because I think our teachers have been really well grounded that this is a year of grace and the year to, help kids forward. And she sent 3 emails, and that afternoon she had 3 emails back from the teachers saying, yep, we knew you would be calling. We're ready. This is what needs to happen. So you're doing the right work, and the teachers have absorbed that, and they're doing the right work. So I just really appreciated that so much, because we went from distraught to game plan, and it was great. So thank you.
Great.
Anyone else? I see Sandy's lips moving, but I don't hear her.
I just said I appreciate you, Michelle, and your team. This is just, again, another year of change, overnight change, and the way you all respond to that is incredible. So thanks.
All right. So with that, we're going to move on to 10.01. Hopefully Kira has had a chance to get some water and rehydrate after her last presentation. And she's ready to give us our February financial report.
I have, yes. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Oh, this is the enrollment report. We're hung up on the, we'll do the financial report because it's first on the list. Okay, so looking at our February numbers, we're halfway through the school year already, halfway through the financial year with February. Here you can see the fund balances as compared to last year. A point of interest, if you can see that the revenues there in capital projects, we have, we actually were able to, some of those early bird people that have paid their taxes. And so those are one of our very first payments, close to $500,000 now in our capital projects fund. So that's exciting, yay, it's there. So it feels like a long time coming, but we're going to start seeing that climb up, and especially next month in April, when all those taxes come in. We saw a little bit in general fund as well, and I'll show you that in the revenues later. Actually seeing quite a bit more next month. You'll see quite a bit more activity in ASB fund with athletics starting, both with revenues and expenditures. Teams out there on the road and buying equipment and just getting back into it. Obviously, I've spent a lot less in ASB, but they're also doing great fundraisers too. The kids are working hard again. It's so fun to see all the different ideas and suggestions, and they call and ask for, can I do this? And it's awesome to see the coaches and the kids excited about getting back out there again. So moving into our expenses by program, you can see we're I think 42%. There we go, 47.29% of the way through budget. We have had it, there really hasn't been too, it's a pretty standard month. Haven't had too many big expenses. Here, if you remember last month, we did pay the Running Start invoice for Peninsula College earlier than last month. So our comparisons are apples for apples here. So we have a really low expenditure compared to last month because we paid the running start bill at a different time. So that's the difference there. But overall, our expenses other than compensation are down quite a bit, like we've been seeing all year. Here you can see that we're down. Last year we were at 3.8 million for salaries and benefits, and this month we're at 3.6. Seeing that average right at 3.536 for the year. So here in general fund, you can see the breakdown of the revenues. There we got the 229,000 in taxes for those early birds that have paid their taxes, and our encumbrances. We're just middle of the year doing what we have all along. We do have a ending fund balance this month of 3.2, which is lower than this is one of those months that we received a little bit. We receive less in apportionment, because like I say that every year or every month, but this is one of the lower ones, so that dips our fund balance down as dips a little bit lower in February, March, and then it will hike up in April. We'll see the lowest in June for our fund balance. And as we discussed tonight at the budget development work session, we're looking at a fund balance of about 4.2 at the end of the year. So, are there any questions for me about February or anything else?
No.
Okay, I'll just move right back into enrollment. So we saw there really wasn't much change this month. We saw an increase of headcount of 3 from February to March, and our FTE lowered just 1 from 3268 down to 3267. And then just the movement in February, the withdrawals that we saw, very few withdrawals. And Maisie, last month you had asked a question about how our dropouts compared to last year. And so I was looking at the report, and for this year we have 35 students that have dropped out. And last year it was at 49. So we actually had more last year than we have this year. So I thought that was interesting. We have been able to get, I believe Becca and her team were able to recover a few more of those students that we talked about last month. Made contact with, I know of at least 6, and I think now she's at 7 or 8 that have been able to re-enroll after those 18 dropped off last month. So continuing to do good work with that and connecting with those students and getting them back enrolled and active in school. So I won't go through all of the slides, all the different schools, but does anyone have any questions about enrollment for me?
No. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kara.
Of course.
Okay, so next on the agenda is, we're moving into action items. So the first is 11.01, which is the approval of the 2021-22 school board meeting schedule. So looks like Jenny's going to call that up. Okay. So do I have a motion? No motion to approve?
Director
by
Wright
Director
will
Kelly.
move to improve it.
Director Kelly seconds.
Okay, a motion and a second. Did anybody have any discussion about this? Anyone? Did we check the same thing that always happens every year? Did we check when All City Strings is scheduled? Make sure we didn't have a crossover on that.
Well, with the pandemic, I don't know. So
Okay. Well, those orchestra people are pretty Johnny on the spot. I think they're scheduled out for like the next 12 years. So just want to make sure because that seems to always be a problem. But okay. Other than that, it looks nothing to nothing. We only have one board meet or planning workshop on here.
No, 4.
Well, that's
Yeah.
kind of, it's kind of the thing down at the bottom doesn't really kind of doesn't tell you that. It
Oh,
kind
with
of,
the asterisk. My bad.
there's two
I,
asterisks.
I was looking. I was looking at the workshop. Okay, I got it. I even knew that. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We've discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstentions? Okay. Excellent. Moves us on to our next item. The approval of the ADA grant award and bid.
No, Chromebooks.
Chromebook.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good gravy, people. Just, I need you to keep me honest. 11.02, approval of the Chromebook RFP.
Director Kelly moves it for approval.
Mark seconds.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Which moves us on to 11.03 now, which is the approval of the ADA grant award bid. Do you have a motion?
I move the approval of the ADA board bid.
Director Wright seconds.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. Okay, moves us on to 11.04, approval of impressed funds. And again, this is a resolution we approve every year. Katie and Jacob, do you understand what this is? I know when I was on the board, it took me about 3 years to really understand what impressed funds, why we had to pass this to start off. Do you guys get it? Probably.
Director Kelly moves it.
Okay, we got a motion.
Director Wright seconds.
Second.
You want to just recap real quick?
Well, I would love Kira to recap if she's still with us because she can explain it better than I.
I am, yes. So we have to approve the amount of funds that are dispersed district-wide and the cash that's actually used in the buildings. So this is just telling the board where that cash sits. We didn't do it at the beginning of the year because we didn't have the cash out there because the students were there. So these are the funds that they are, they have checking accounts in ASB that they use, and we reconcile that every month. And then also they're starting tills for food service, which right now they're not using those, but I decided to put it on the impressed just in case they start. So
Thank you.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Had discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous again. Which takes us to 11.05, approval of IPP federal form, Indian policy and procedure.
Director Wright moves to approve this.
Director Long seconds.
Okay, do we have discussion?
I have discussion. So I know this is the same thing that we brought up last year, and I know that I talked to Kira today regarding the whole process, and I understand this is coming from the feds, that this is the way they want it written. A staff person said that. So there's some typos in the document, and then there's some other things that talks about the LEA, which is the Port Angel School District, which I would suggest that we name this procedure 6100P.3 for the time being. But we have 8 other policies that pertain to this regarding impact aid. So I did talk to WASDA legal staff today regarding this, and they're considering having their own policy and procedure about impact aid. They didn't realize that this was such an issue. I'm going to give her some background information, but I would be more than willing to work with Kira and change some of the wording to address more about Port Angeles, just and not change the format, but just change some of the language, and suggest that we change this to a procedure, and then come back with the other 8 policies and make sure that we have that all the same information pertains in the document.
Okay, so I understand your concerns, but Marty, my understanding is that this is a time-sensitive form that needs to get turned into the federal government, and it has been worked on pretty thoroughly, that this is the way that the federal government wants it. And am I mistaken in that it's a time of is of the essence situation?
This form came to the board last November and we tabled it. And then we went through a series of weeks and months and adjusted it, or made it more our own around and more of like a procedure that we would implement in our school district. And the document was much better presented than this document, most certainly by the time we approved it. The challenge is we sent that into the feds and they denied it based on this is the template policy that they want to have approved at the local level to allocate the Indian education money. And so this one is now, we started it back in November. It is time sensitive to get this approved, moving forward so that we can get the Indian ed money from the feds. So I'm not opposed if there's some, edits that Cindy has as far as, word edits and not changing the format to do that, to submit it to the feds and be able to allocate the funds. Kira, are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely, yeah. I think if we're, giving it a title or just having it flow a little bit better with our other procedures, that's fine. She just wanted to make sure that the board had seen the document and then we reviewed it.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to call the question to, we have a motion, a second, to approve this, and with the expectation that we will continue working on it. But at this point, I feel we need to move forward with it so we can get access to that. So with that,
So we're going to move it, and we're going to move it as is presented to us.
I'm going to move as presented. We can't edit it in on the fly right now. And I feel if we don't get it passed now, it needs to be passed. It's been waiting now since November. It needs to be passed. And this is the format that the federal government wants. So unless Kira or Marty tells me that it's inappropriate for us to pass it right now, I feel like we need to just get it done and then we can work on it if we need to and bring it back. But I think it needs to get passed at this point.
I think it can get passed with some amendments tonight. That's my recommendation.
Again, I'm going to look to Marty and to Kira on this then. That was not my understanding of what needed to happen.
What are the, I know Kira, you and Cindy talked this afternoon. What are the proposed amendments?
I believe, Cindy, you just wanted to name it to
6100P-.3. And then in the title where it says Port Angel School District, we'd write 121. And in the second paragraph to this end, we take that out. and we would format it to what our board policy looks like regarding the wording that we usually use. Which Jenny put it in Google Drive tonight. I could fix it and Kira could send it out tomorrow with amendments.
I think the impact aid office would be fine with that.
Okay, so
When it's due.
So I turned in our impact aid application in January. This was attached, so the approved document that we worked on in November was attached to the 2022 application.
Mhm.
And that is when she asked for the template or the format to be what was presented tonight.
Can I ask another question, please? Cindy just mentioned, I think I understood you to say that WASDA is going to work on a policy for the school districts that might match this. Is that correct?
Her and I are going to follow up tomorrow, and they're going to consider working on a policy, but she thinks it's probably important enough that we move forward. But like Kira said, I think we need to move forward with this procedure.
Director Kelly, we're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if anyone else is.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. Are you having a hard time hearing me?
Now,
Yeah.
we hear you better. That's
Okay.
better.
Can you get closer to your microphone?
Okay, I'll jump on it. So anyway, so I think that I'm okay with we move forward with change, give it in a title, procedure, make it a few little amendments that match our board policy format, not changing any content, and moving forward to pass that tonight. And then we work with WASDA, and WASDA probably will come up with an impact aid series for policy and procedures.
Kira, this came back to you from the feds?
Yes, she sent that to me. She sent it back to me directly and asked me to present and just to make sure that you guys saw this template in this format.
My suggestion is we go ahead and pass it as is and then work in the future with WASDA to see something that might better suit our needs. I know how the feds work, and if they want it this way, I suggest we go ahead and pass it this way. Cindy, I'm with you. I did ask about some of the language that I didn't think was appropriate, but if this is the way the feds want it, I'm going to suggest we go ahead and do it this way and then work later to write our own policy. That's my suggestion. So I'm going to call for the question, Sarah.
okay. So with that, I'm going to ask all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, so my understanding is, and that is a 3-2 vote.
President Methner, there is a community comment on agenda item number 11.05. If now is the proper time to address that.
Yes,
Before the vote.
normally we would have done it before the vote. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I was not aware that there was a community.
My apologies, I just saw it come through.
Okay.
Let him talk.
Yeah, that's fine. Jessica Ellefson.
All right, so Jessica, I'll go ahead and allow unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. Really happy to be here listening. A couple of questions about I wanted to know from Mr. Brewer, why was it denied? And I had in the question and answer, I don't know if you guys see any of that, had wanted to point out that there was just some grammatical errors in section 5.1. There are 2 thes, and it makes that sentence very confusing. And I guess as a Native American who's got children in this school district, and I've worked with the district for 15 years, it feels kind of very unauthentic this push, and this is the first I've heard about anything like this happening. So I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm in the dark and I'm unaware. So I appreciate this work that you guys are doing, and Kira, the work that you've done with the grant, and Mr. Brewer, I know that you've been working hard with lots of different things. So that was what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And as it's already been voted on, I guess we will just, Director or Superintendent Brewer can maybe follow up with Jessica and answer if she has anything that you need to firm up with her, if that would be okay.
Then I think we need to follow the procedures that we just passed, because we've not been notifying and getting parents together to have input on the application of the grant.
I'm not sure what policy we need to get parent involvement with every policy we pass.
You should just read the procedure you just passed, because it says in there we should have got input from the parents before we approved that. I'm not aware that we ever got parent input or notified parents of the application.
Okay.
So the parents are notified when we do the survey. So when we present the survey, the impact aid survey, they're aware of the application and why we're collecting the information.
So I guess I'd like to see that data.
Go
I've
ahead.
never seen that data.
You waiting in too late.
Sure.
You're too late. You're supposed to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely, I can share that with you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to 11.06. Approval of the second reading of policy 2022, electronic resources and internet safety.
Director Long moves the policy 2022.
Director Mark seconds.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, any discussion? None? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we go on to 11.07. Oh, hang on. What happened? 11.07, approval of the second. No, did we just do that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I did not have the, I'm sorry, I apologize. I do not have the agenda in front of me. So when it changes, I am getting myself confused. Now we are on 11.07, approval of the second reading of policy 2020. Course design, selection, and adoption of instructional materials.
Director Wright moves to approve the second reading of policy 2020.
Director Long seconds.
Okay, a motion is second. Any discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions. Okay. 11.08, approval of the second reading of policy 2106, program compliance. Do you have a motion?
Yeah, Director Wright will move to approve the second reading of policy 2106.
Second?
Director Long seconds.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question about this policy. I would like for somebody to explain to me the need for this policy. Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Anybody? Director
Mark?
Kelly?
Sandy, somebody.
Can you pull up the policy, Jenny? This is the second reading of this policy.
Yes.
Okay. Can you pull it up, Jenny?
Yeah, hold on one moment.
Thank you.
It seems so very redundant to me. I don't know if there's something I'm missing.
hold on.
Okay.
106. Sorry, my computer's being super slow. I think I have too many things open here.
I mean, if you look at the documentation, the cross references, it practically references everything. I don't understand why we have this policy.
Jenny, can you go to the bottom of that policy?
How far?
Looking for the legal part of it from the state. One thing is this, the policy is being revised. It's being renamed. So Michelle probably could talk a little bit about that, but she's still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. So again, we looked at it in the policy committee, and you know, this is, you know, kind of one of those annual things that you look at, and making sure that, you know, permanent records are being taken care of. You know, supervision of instructional practices. I mean, those are all things that we do on a normal basis. That's just part of our day-to-day work, and then we're always planning for the future of that. So I don't have anything to compare it to, or, you know, understand the history per se, but again, this is really our job, right? Is that we're giving teachers what they need, our principals, we're providing clarity for them around, you know, operating their buildings and making sure that everybody's aware of the policies that affect them. So,
well, the reason I'm asking, Michelle, is that if you look at the cross references, that covers, I mean, each one of those has a procedure, and I don't know if this is just treated as some sort of I don't know what it is. I think it's so redundant that I don't even know why it exists. That's all I'm saying. I don't get it.
yeah, no, I understand, Sandy. And I think I see it as more kind of this internal accountability and sort of audit piece that we go through as a district as we review procedures as we start the school year.
And this is going to, for our CPR, which is Consolidated Programs Review that we do every, if it's 4th or 5th year, this outlines, you know, the areas that the state will come in and do an audit. And so it really gives us a policy of expectations that we have compliance in each of these areas. And so when we're audited, this is one of the policies that the auditors will look at for this Consolidated Programs Review.
Well, do you write any kind of procedures that go with this? Because the procedures are all written, I would think are all written for all of these policies that are listed at the end of this document. I mean, do you have to write specific policies 2 times, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, all the procedures, excuse me, I meant procedures twice. All the procedures would be listed under all of these other issues. I mean,
yeah, I believe that this policy won't have a procedure because this is just a list of program compliance. But when you get into, you know, one of the one of the letters of this particular policy for program compliance, that specific policy that's called out in our policy menu may have a procedure that is correct with much more depth and expectation around that particular theme.
Okay, so you don't have to spend any time writing procedures for this.
not this program, not this policy specifically, but the policies or the subcon or the policies embedded within, yes, some of those will have a procedure.
Right. That's
This
I
is not
guess.
the correct policy we're looking at. This is the current policy. This is not the one we're looking at changing. The one we're looking at changing, it should be called Course Design, Selection, Adoption of Instructional Materials.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'll vote yes for this. I just didn't want to see, I just didn't see why we would have to spend any time trying to write a policy for this. I mean, trying to write procedures when they're all already written, it looks like to me. Okay.
I think
That's-
primarily this was a name change of the of our policy. It's just mostly just a name change that basically says the superintendent has to make sure that we're following. This is the laundry list of things that the superintendent has to make sure we're in compliance with. But it
Okay.
has a new name now, and I
It
think
will be audited every 5 years.
right.
Okay.
I think primarily this is just a name change overall.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so with that, any other discussion? No, then we're gonna take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions? Excellent. Okay, that takes us on to our next. All right, 11.09 is approval, no?
Yes.
11.09, approval of the second reading of policy 1400, meeting conduct, order of business and quorum.
Director Wright moves to approve the second reading of policy 1400.
Motion, second.
Director Marks seconds.
Motion is second. Discussion. Any discussion? All right, with that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, abstentions? Nays? Okay. So then we're going on to community comments. So Carmen,
There are no community comments at this time.
all right, so that takes us to board comments. So we'll start with the board of directors comments. We'll start with, so I don't forget them, let's start with our students. And we'll start with, how about Lakin?
Thank you. So I think Mr. Gross kind of covered everything that has been going on with Lincoln High School. I think that the biggest thing that's happened was the St. Patrick's Day. Everyone came in and got a float. I was very happy to see y'all, every one of you here. And I think that's about all I have to say. Thank you, though.
All right, thank you. Yes, my float was delicious. I had the orange float, just in case anybody wants to know. Okay, so Miss Tucker, it's on to you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, my Wi-Fi is kind of so. Anyways, mostly what's going on at Port Angeles High School is we're coming to the end of our quarter. Next week is going to be our final week ending on April 2nd. So I think if you can send good vibes towards the high school, that'd be good. The second season of sports are going on right now, which is really great news. And if you guys have been paying attention to that, it's going forward. And I think we have some really happy students right now. We have girls tennis, boys soccer, baseball, softball, golf, and track going on. So a lot of those sports were ones that were canceled last year due to the pandemic. So I think it's really refreshing for them to get back. I also just wanted to say, I've heard some feedback from, and also my personal feedback is bravo on the COVID-19 survey for students. I took it myself and I know other people took it, and I think that it was all encompassing and it felt very inclusive. And I think that that's going to be some good data for us to get back and to learn about. So great job on that. And I really approve of that. And I couldn't make the last meeting due to diving, but I just wanted to say, we talked about it earlier, but I'm proud of the equity policy that I was reading over, and I made some comments on that. And I think that we're moving in the right direction. And that's about it.
Maisie, was that the Healthy Youth Survey that you're referencing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think.
I just
Yeah.
want to get that for the record.
Terrific. Okay, so the next person I can see on my list here is Director Marks.
Let's see, I think, let's see, the announcement of going back half-time is super exciting for the elementary K through 6. I'm really excited, especially after reading all the SIPs about needing kids in person. That was some really good data to kind of reinforce being back in school. I'm really appreciative of this. I'm a little bit nervous as a working parent on how I'm going to manage the schedule though. So it's a little bit, it's a lot. So, but willing to figure it out. The sports, the high school sports, moving from one season to the next is super exciting. The kids are just, they're just super happy and engaged. And, you know, I really do feel like these activities really reinforce their studies and help them study harder. So it's, although it makes them really busy, I think that it's super important. And I love seeing these kids playing and enjoying themselves and enthusiastically participating. Let's see. I have been getting some feedback from senior parents about graduation. The word on the street is that if there is a graduation ceremony, the parents want to be there. I know that there's a lot of movement between now and June, so I'm not particularly worried about it. I just want to report to you what I have heard from several senior parents, because there's a lot of rumors going on right now with about this. So I'm just bringing that up. Let's see. Oh, is the other thing about AM/PMs, school starting, and this is just a question for Marty, and we can talk about this later. Have you been in contact with some of the after-school programs as to whether or not they're going to be helping parents with before and after these half-day programs? So half-day schools days. So thanks. That's my question to Marty, and we can follow up outside of this meeting about it. So thanks. I'm done.
Okay. I imagine that Superintendent Brewer probably has that on his list of things to talk to us about when he goes. So let's go to Director. I'm going to go to Director Kelly. Director Wright, you're being punished since you apparently have put the baby away. Oh, never mind. Okay, you just leave that there. But Director Kelly, if you want to go.
So I testified before the K-12 early learning on Senate Bill 1356, which had to do with mascots, logos, and team names. And I attended a WASDA nominating committee recap with some of the members who weren't able to attend during our meeting. Had a DNR encumbered lands meeting, met with the Clallam County Commissioners with the DNR staff to talk about the progress that are making with sales and what's happening in Clallam County for the last quarter. Attended the Lincoln High School Ice Cream Social, which was fabulous, and it was great to talk to students and staff. The Washington State Native American Education Committee meeting I attended the WASDA COVID-19 weekly meetings and the Clallam County EDC weekly meetings. The WASDA legislative meeting with our legislators, which I thought really went well. The majority of it was done with students. And Maisie, if you're willing, I would like to connect you with Logan from WASDA to do some testimony or to participate in some legislative work. If you'd like to do that, please reach out to me. And we had a special school board meeting on Monday, and I attended the town hall meeting with our local legislators this week, which was really good. And I attended the Washington State Native American Advisory meeting with Superintendent Reichdahl yesterday. It was great to hear his comments. And then I attended the WASDA consulting meeting relating to local land acknowledgement with the WASDA executive board this week. So as we start the work to doing land acknowledgement in the new building at WASDA.
I'm talking to myself. I just called on Director Wright and I'm just sitting here waiting for him to talk, and there we go. That's all I want to see.
He's hanging with me.
Oh.
It's always fun to follow Director Kelly. I am humbled by the work.
I need to see that bigger.
Keep really, really busy for this board. Thank you. Maisie, good vibes coming your way. They're coming your way. Lakin, congratulations on Student of the Month. That's really cool and well earned. For my part, I'm happy with the direction things are going, especially with elementary school. I think the AMP model is awesome, and it totally lined up with all of the SIPs that we looked at today, that we just need those elementary students in school as much as possible. For me, in the last couple of weeks, I got to have a really good conversation with Michelle. I stopped in to talk to her. We talked about the direction of education, where things are going, and as well as the emotional mental health of students as it relates specifically to technology, which is my passion here. And I look forward to more of those conversations and more as we get back to normal with our school and getting into more wellness meetings and being able to focus on things other than COVID-19. But it was a great start to that longer conversation.
Thank you. So that takes us, and I just will call out, we're going to, we do have another comment in the question and answer section, but time has passed, but I'm going to finish with the director's comments, and between the director comments and superintendent, I'm going to call on the folks who are waiting to speak to the board. So with that, I'm going to continue on to Dr. Long.
Well, let's see. PAEF meeting was last week. They're still Zooming, but they want to meet if the board will say it's okay. They want to start meeting at the central office. They're outgrowing their meeting place at Steve Methner's office. So I have talked to Superintendent Brewer about that. He seems to think that's fine. And if the board thinks that's fine, then I would suggest, since they are one of our most outstanding groups that support our schools, that we allow them to meet. They meet twice. They would have 2 meetings a month. One would be the regular board meeting and the other would be a planning meeting, maybe their executive committee. They meet on the first and no, I can't remember now. Third. They meet on the 3rd Tuesday at noon. And those meetings are always open, and they're excited about trying to come and begin to be closer to us. And Sarah and I went to see the Learning Center on the Elwha Reservation. We stumbled into the Early Childhood Learning Center because we went the wrong way, but it was good to see that building is also fabulous. It is just incredible. I think there are 8 classrooms there for preschoolers. And then when we finally made it to the learning center that we're familiar with and that was written up in the Seattle newspaper, and it was great. We had a great visit there. And then we went also to the Lincoln St. Patrick's Day party, which I love because I'm Irish and I always love St. Patrick's Day. So I guess that's about it, since we've got people waiting to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Long. And again, I just did everything that Sandy did. And Marty and Michelle, I have some, I wrote down some of the, not concerns necessarily, but maybe ideas, concerns that we got from the folks at the Learning Center. So I'm going to get those to you all because they're pretty easy little fixes that we can do that will make their lives better. And so with that, I am going to, for anyone who's still listening, generally what happens is Carmen speaks at the beginning of our board meeting to explain how to do the question and answer, which can be kind of confusing for people. Generally, if you want to speak to an agenda item, it goes into the Q&A, or if you want to speak non-agenda. So that's where we look to see if we need to call on people. So I'm sorry that that was confusing this time. And we're going to go ahead, though, and get your question answered. So I'm calling on, I'm not sure if it's Allison or Chris who wishes to speak, or maybe both.
Carmen, let Carmen will manage.
Yes, Carmen, if you would call on, that's exactly good.
Great, thank you, President Methner. So Allison or Chris, I have unmuted or allowed you to unmute. So if you are ready to address the board, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to make comment, and I apologize for the confusion of how to make comment. So thank you, President Methner and the board. I have, as well as my husband, submitted comment with concerns about the hybrid schedule that was announced today. And just after thinking about those comments I sent earlier in an email, I just want to really emphasize to the board that you need to explain really why this is happening. I understand from tonight's meeting about some of the students that are suffering, but it's really not clear in the messaging that we're receiving. And I think we really need to hear why that this drastic change to routine and a drastic change to parents' ability to provide, really to be able to work and provide childcare. It's just a really huge wrench in our routine. And I know my family is quite concerned about it. I also just want to mention that there are some errors on the school district's website about childcare services. It lists the Spark Squad service as being full-time. That's not accurate. I think that demonstrates a big disconnect between the school district and the childcare services that are actually available for our community. I just think the board needs to think about that as the changes to the school schedule is going to be a reality. We are in a childcare crisis, and as the school schedules change, that is really going to require parents to leave the workforce in order to care for their children. And I think that's just a big concern that we need to think about, or worst case scenario, it's going to cause parents to leave the school district. That's it. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you,
Thank you. So with that, I'm going to turn everything over to Superintendent Brewer with his comments. Go ahead, Marty.
Right, thank you very much. So a few items to address this evening. First, I know the board was, there was an email sent to the board around the travel quarantine and spring break. That was addressed, and that will be on Friday notes. The short answer is our county health official, Dr. Berry, is still requiring our school district, that's both employees and students, to, if you travel out of state, you'll quarantine for 7 days for an employee and a negative test, and 10 days for a student, and that's minus symptoms, obviously. I know that Dr. Berry continues to be very cautious, but also optimistic around the virus moving forward, with the variants out across, the United States, including our own state. She's taken a very cautious approach, and is one that is really committed on trying to keep our schools open. So you'll find our response on Friday notes. This also, and I think this is an important statement, this applies to everybody in our organization, as I currently am in a 7-day quarantine myself. Thank you to the board. You allowed me to travel to visit a candidate that we're looking at for high school principal position. And so return today. I apologize, I'm a little tired this evening and maybe out of it. I have some jet lag going on, but I have put myself in a 7-day quarantine to lead by example and make sure that we keep our schools safe. So the big news of the day, actually two big items. One being the transition to AM/PM model and additional learning time for secondary students. As I mentioned earlier this evening, the intent of the delivery of this message was not to be one of surprise. But most certainly it has surprised our community. And for that, I apologize. The pandemic has created some really difficult situations. And, our district has navigated those the best that we can without a playbook. And, in looking at our data and looking at how students are performing in our systems, and you heard it directly from the principals this evening, there is a correlation between students performing within our schools that have resources and students that are performing within our schools that don't have those resources, particularly to the social economic status of a family. And, we felt that, it was time to, with regards to the virus and vaccinations and, the conditions getting better, that it was time to take a step in the right direction around returning our students to 100% in-person learning. And I am the first to say, and I will say this time and time again, this is a challenge for many families, and we understand that. But waiting another 9 weeks, until, next school year starts, to implement a new learning cycle for students just became a non-negotiable. And, you heard it directly from the principals today based on, the challenges that our students are faced. Not a student, many students. And, we have a moral obligation to do what we can. And so we made some tough decisions. And I would have really liked to, given our community a month's notice that change potentially was coming. But there are some constrictions around, bargaining processes with bargaining groups that we just simply have to honor. And so, last night, I really want to compliment the teams to come together to come up with creative solutions to very complex problems. But about midnight last night, we closed the deal that made it possible to increase our learning time. And so, I apologize for the delivery to surprising families across our community, but I won't apologize for increasing in-person learning time for students that need it now more than ever before. So, we will, the board, myself, our cabinet principals, we will have very difficult conversations over the next week and a half because change is difficult. And I am very understanding of that and appreciative of the comments that we just heard. To address Katie's question and in a question that came out in the community comment, we have met approximately a week ago. We did meet with the childcare providers in the area, and that was recorded so that childcare providers that could not attend could see the recording. And we did share with them the vision for returning students to more in-person learning. And that surprised them as well, approximately a week ago. And they were, as a group, they were very supportive of that move because they see as well the importance of returning our students back to more normal experiences within schools. So I believe that we have their support, and they will work with us collaboratively to try to, problem solve very specific problems around students returning to school and AM/PM schedules. So you know, the purpose, and I'll just come back around to it one more time, is our students need us now. And simply waiting 9 weeks and then another 9 weeks over the summer months, you know, just simply, we could not avoid what's happening to, in Hamilton's case, you know, we heard it directly from, you know, the principal there. You know, we have 50% of our students not engaging and scoring a 1, you know, when it's off-site time. And so we had to make a move. And I am very appreciative and understanding and empathetic to the challenges that this will face, that this will provide to families. And I hope that in the end, that grace and forgiveness will be, you know, offered in both directions, and we can move forward together in the best interest of all of our students. There's no doubt that for some families this model worked, but there are some families that it did not. So, and then to add a little more to that concept today, is the governor did announce today that there was a removal of the 6-foot social distance, and, you know, school districts could transition to a 3-foot social distance model. On Tuesday, I met with Dr. Berry, our health official for the region. Actually, I didn't. We met as a superintendent team. And she really wanted to know where districts stood on this very issue, going from 6 to 3 feet. And each school district in the region was very hesitant upon making that move at this point in time with regards to the pandemic. And Dr. Berry's response was, she was appreciative of that, and she actually advised school districts against going from 6 to 3 feet at this stage of the pandemic. Her key justification for that was that if a school system, our safety measures are working. We've had, and she referenced this on Tuesday, we've had, not just in Port Angeles, but across the entire county, we've had no community transmission within a school. And that's because we have very detailed safeguards to avoid community transmission within a school. But she indicated that if we transitioned now, the likelihood of a community transmission within schools would occur. And her concern with that was the disruption that it would create within the school. Because when there's a community transmission within a classroom, where it's transmitted from one student to another student, there's a high likelihood that the entire class would be quarantined, which will have negative impacts on the entire class and also potentially the families around quarantining because of a child that tests positive. So in her assessment, you know, it would be far more disruptive to transition to a model where we would increase the likelihood of community transmission. She is of the belief, just as the governor is of the belief and set the expectation today, that next fall, the expectation is all schools are back to in-person learning. And Dr. Berry believes that to be true. And why she believes that to be true is, you know, we will have, you know, vaccinations will be at a very different standpoint next fall. And, you know, students and students and families that choose to will start to have access to the vaccination In fact, we're starting to see some 18-year-olds in the area that, or 18-year-olds now have access through the tribe in the swim area. So, you know, there's just a lot of moving parts right now. And we are, I want the board to hear tonight, I want the community here tonight. You know, we're working really hard. You know, every level of this organization is working very hard to do what's right for this community and do what's right for our students. And we'll continue to do that. And it's going to be difficult over the next 9 weeks, but together we can make it work. And, you know, we'll own our decisions and justify our decisions and understand that in some cases, they're just not justification to a family. But, you know, we're in a situation now where we feel like our delivery model, you know, can make significant gains, you know, at the regression of the learning that's occurred over the last 12 months. So I think that's enough for this evening. I encourage each of the board members as well as community members in the room. Dr. Berry, it will be sharing her position on county schools in her meeting tomorrow morning. And you can hear it directly from her based on the concerns she has of moving too quickly with regards to removing the 6 and going to a 3-foot social distance. And at the end of our conversation, she did say that, you know, she can be more restrictive than the state of Washington. She can't be less restrictive, but she could be more restrictive. She's really proud of her work in this community. We've done really good work together. And we here in this school district have defaulted to her leadership on the medical side of this throughout the entire pandemic. And that's where my loyalty lies tonight. So with that being said, I'll answer any questions that the board has.
Okay, Superintendent Brewer, if I can, we did have another comment that it was an Allison versus an Allie, and we screwed that one up as well. So to honor that we'd already allowed one person's comment, I would like Carmen to call on the person who's waiting to make a comment. And then we'll open it to board questions to Superintendent Brewer, if that is okay. So Carmen?
Thank you, President Methner. Allie Plute, you are listed as Allison and Chris Brecky. There are 2 people with the same name. So I'm going to go ahead and try and allow you. I'm going to ask you to unmute if this is the correct Allie Plute. If you can unmute and talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. I will be brief. I think Allison Brecky helped pose some of my questions. I come to the board for as 2 hats. So thank you all for your hard work. I really get that. First of all, I'm a mother of a Franklin raccoon who's a 1st grader, and I'm also the head of human resources for Jamestown. So I also speak as an employer for our 2nd largest workforce. So I think some of the questions that I had was really around the timing. And I think that Mr. Brewer, you helped answer some of that. Getting this today was a surprise for many of our parents, many of our workforce that now has to readjust their schedules. So I get the timing and I get that decisions have to be made, and I really respect that. I think we're just looking for ways to help our working parents, really. I'm a working parent myself, and for some of us, this was really working. We had to make it work, and now we're readjusting again. And I think that's just the hard part to wrap our heads around right now. But I get that. I really do get the hard decisions that go behind all of this. I think one comment as a parent is that we have 9 weeks left. And while we understand that some kids are suffering, we don't know how that's going to really change their dynamic, but it really could hurt those that are thriving. So I think that's just something to be aware of. I'm sure you are, but also our workforce. Now we're also dealing with Jamestown, 850 employees, many of those parents, many of those single parents that have to reconsider their work schedules. So I think that's just my comment as a community member and as a parent and as a large employer. With all due respect to you guys in your process, we are here to support you as well and to just really help spread this in the community and why these decisions are made. So I think that, speaking from Allison's perspective, childcare isn't a crisis. Allison Brecky and I both sit on many boards trying to help alleviate this in our community. So when we put out messaging that says, we're making these decisions, here's a link to childcare options, we just know some of those aren't available. Many of those aren't available. Boys and Girls Club has a huge list. Spark Center isn't taking kids. So I think it just can be disappointing to parents. So messaging is important, and I'm really glad I sat on this call tonight. It's my first one I've been on, and I see the hard work you guys are doing, and I appreciate it. So from two different perspectives, as I said, as an employer, now trying to work around schedules of our employee base and workforce. And, as one of many parents that is trying to figure out how we rework our schedule again. I think the decision's been made, and I understand CBA agreements, and you guys are doing the best you can to make it work. And I'm here to listen respectfully and just add some community comment and perspective as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I'm going to open to, does the board have any questions of Superintendent Brewer? Anyone? Feel like we've gotten all of our questions answered? All right, we seem to be out of puff here. So with that, if no one has anything more that they want to bring up, we're going to go to items for next agenda.
Jenny, do you have that? No, I'm sorry. I have that. I apologize. So our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. We will have a 5:30 meeting, or the study session will start at 5:30 with a mid-year SIP review from Port Angeles High School, Lincoln High School, Stevens Middle School, Roosevelt Elementary, and Dry Creek Elementary School. The regular meeting will start at 7 p.m. On the regular meeting, the agenda items to include Stevens Middle School report with the student of the month, McKinty-Vento report, special education report, March financial report, the enrollment report, column resilience project report. Public School Volunteers Week will be recognized as April 19th through the 23rd. And then Teacher Appreciation Week will be recognized at that meeting as well for the week of May 3rd through 7th.
Okay, with that, with nothing further for the board, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.